Hey guys! Part 11 of What If Naruto Unlocked His True Potential. Hit like and subscribe if you like this one, and also please check the author in the description. Let's start.
We are pain, that's all. We are God.
Chapter 51, End of a War. Just a warning though, since this Yagura reeks of Madara's influence, the man's essence should be in his mind, controlling him. You'll have to destroy that essence, meaning you'll have to fight it. Even if it's just an essence and Madara will not be at his actual strongest, this will not be an easy fight. You must be prepared to fight immediately, Naruto, Kyuubi stated. Understood. Naruto verbally replied as he began channeling his chakra. In an instant, Naruto made his mental link and entered Yagura's mindscape. The first thing Naruto noticed about Yagura's mindscape was the color and sense of life. Unlike the bland sewer that characterized his mind, Yagura's mind was reminiscent of a shallow pond. The water was colored a light blue that appeared completely clear in certain areas. Different colored flowers were growing out of the water. The most predominant flower featured in the pond, however, was a flower with green petals similar to the flower on Yagura's staff. It's so clean and calm here. This looks so different from my mind, Naruto commented absent-mindedly as he walked through the pond. The red chakra that surrounded Naruto's body reflected off the pond water, adding a dark red color to the area and making it feel more alive. Of course it is. If Yagura has enough control over himself to fully control his Biju-S chakra, then he has enough control to change the layout of his mind. This is probably the type of scenery that he finds most peaceful, or something, the Kyuubi replied. At the sound of the Kyuubi's voice, Naruto turned his head around to look for the fox. After a few seconds of looking, the Uzumaki turned his head upward. In the sky above him was a floating cage. The Kyuubi was lying down in it. What are you doing up there? Shouldn't you be out? Naruto questioned. No. Your seal is different than others. There was a key placed on it, the fox replied. He snarled quietly, saying something about the fucking yandere before turning his head back to Naruto. Never mind that. I'm still here and I can supply you with necessary chakra. Now go find Madara. I can feel his presence here and it's close. The Jinchuriki nodded his head in understanding before he turned his head forward and started running through the pond in Yagura's mindscape. He had no clear direction or sense of where to go, but there was something inside of him that led him down a particular direction, a gut instinct. Naruto continued rushing through the pond. After nearly a full minute of walking, he found a figure lying down in a patch of green flowers growing in the pond. As he got closer to the figure, he recognized the figure as Yagura. It's him! Naruto ran faster to his side. Yagura's eyes were completely shut. His lips were twisted into a scowl and it seemed like his body was moving in place, as if he was writhing. His body was unable to move too much, however, as the vines of flowers underneath him held on to him, preventing him from moving. That's got to be him. The real him, the Uzumaki realized as he tried to pull up Yagura's body from the ground. His efforts failed, however, as Yagura's body remained rooted to the flowers. Naruto continued to apply more force to his efforts, but nothing was working. Yagura remained stuck to the ground. The Uzumaki sighed as he stood back a few seconds and looked at the Mizuki's body in contemplation. What's going on? Why can't I pull him up? He questioned. Whatever technique that filthy Uchiha is using to control him probably has him stuck like this. You probably will not be able to help him until you deal with him, the Kyuubi replied. The fox's eyes then widened. Kid, look out! Fire style, grand fireball jutsu! Naruto immediately jumped away at the Kyuubi's request, avoiding a giant fireball in the process. Naruto then turned towards the direction of the fire. Approaching him was a man wearing a black full-body cloak with purple lines on the collar. He wore an orange mask over his face with a black flame on it. No defining part of his body was truly visible, other than his black, spiky hair. Naruto's eyes narrowed at the sight of the man. That's him, isn't it? You! The Kyuubi snarled from his cage. Madara! Kyuubi, it's been a while. The man, Madara, commented. How long has it been? 11 years? 12 years? Almost 14 now, you bastard! You ripped me out of Kushina and put me in your control 14 years ago. The fox growled. Oh? It's been that long? Madara almost seemed to chuckle. My apologies. I'm just an imprint placed in Yagura's mind. Time becomes almost irrelevant in a place like this. I'm only really aware of things and places associated with Yagura, and these last few years have been pretty static. You're the man who caused everything, Naruto hissed. You're the reason the Kyuubi was sealed in me and why parents had to die. And you're Minato's son, the masked man commented, now looking at Naruto. You do look a lot like him. I do apologize for having to kill him, and your mother, but it is all part of a much larger plan. It's for the betterment of the world. What betterment? Naruto shouted as he started getting into a position to fight. Killing people, forcing the Kyuubi to do your bidding, trying to destroy Konoha. How does any of this make the world better? It would take too long to explain to you. And it would be a waste of time, Madara replied as he started to reach inside the sleeves of his cloak. I know why you are here. You are interfering with my plans in Kiri. As such, you need to be eliminated. It may push the plans back a couple of years, but I'm sure my original self can simply collect the Kyuubi a few years from now when he reforms. He'll understand why I had to do what I had to do. My apologies, but you aren't going to be alive to see the new world. A small distortion in space developed directly on Madara's body. Within seconds, his body quickly moved into the distortion before completely disappearing. Naruto's eyes widened again. Where did he dash? Naruto's words died on his lips as he felt a presence behind him. He jumped into the air, avoiding a kunai to his back. Naruto turned his body around in time to see Madara had reappeared right behind him. Madara released a black chain from braces on his wrists and quickly moved around Naruto's body, tying him up. Using the chains, he then slammed Naruto to the ground. The water on the pond softened the impact slightly, but Naruto still felt himself cough up blood from the force. The Uzumaki tried to pull himself off the ground, but the chains continued to hold him down. Well, that was quick, Madara stated as he reached into the left sleeve of his cloak and pulled out a series of red explosive tags. You may be Minato's son, but you aren't nearly strong enough to put up a fight like he did. You tried a couple years too early and now you'll have to pay the consequences. With those words, Madara tossed the explosive tags towards Naruto's tied-up body. They quickly attached themselves to his body. Kid! The Kyuubi shouted to Naruto. Damn it! Naruto closed his eyes tightly. Come on, Naruto! There's gotta be a way out of this. Find it! The explosive tags on Naruto's body detonated, creating a massive explosion and causing water and smoke to fill the area around him. Madara remained still, looking at the cloud and waiting to see Naruto's destroyed body. After a few seconds passed, he was greeted to a different sight, Naruto, still alive, standing up and breathing hard. The chains that had surrounded him were now destroyed and lying on the ground, and a few burn marks on his skin were the only evidence that the explosive tags made contact with his body. His body was surrounded by even more red chakra. His chakra cloak adopted a blackish tint, but it did not cover his entire body. 2 more tails of chakra were now behind him, bringing his total number of tails to 6. So, you channeled more of my chakra in order to strengthen the chakra cloak around your body to act as a buffer from the explosion. Not bad, the Kyuubi thought to himself. He then looked down at Naruto and noticed his expression. While Naruto's eyes were narrowed further in an animalistic manner, he still seemed to be conscious. And you haven't succumbed to my power yet from using 6 tails. Very impressive. So you avoided death there. I suppose that would have been too easy, Madara admitted. I'm Namake's Minato's son after all, Naruto replied as he a singular hand sign. And I'm not going to let you get away with everything you have done. Shadow Clone Jutsu. 100 clones of Naruto joined him. Immediately, the clones charged forward directly at the masked shinobi while Naruto remained in the back, watching. The first clone attempted to punch the man in the face, but his fist went directly through his mask. What? He gasped. Madara responded by releasing another chain with the braces on his wrists and running forward. His body and the chain moved straight through each clone, as if he was intangible. Within seconds, the masked man and ran through all 100 clones. As soon as he did that, his chain became tangible again, capturing all clones at once. The masked man then made a snap of his fingers, causing the chain to ignite on fire. All of the clones screamed out for a moment before they all dispersed. The original Naruto quickly charged at Madara before he could divert his full focus to him again. He attempted to land a punch on him, but the Uchiha managed to turn around in time and grab his fist with his hand. The action caused Naruto to smirk. Okay, so he's not completely intangible. If he was, he wouldn't have bothered with trying to block. That means he's limited with how he can use it. I just need to figure out those limits and take advantage of them, Naruto told himself. Madara shook his head upon seeing Naruto's smirk and tightened his grip on Naruto's fist. The Uzumaki's body immediately vanished in a poof of smoke. Madara proceeded to turn around in time to see Naruto attempting to kick him in the head. He proceeded to catch his foot. Did you think the Shunshin would be enough to catch me by surprise or something? Madara taunted. Naruto, in response, made a series of hand signs. Wind style, great breakthrough. Naruto breathed out a massive gust of wind from his mouth directly at Madara's face. The wind, however, blew straight through him without hitting him. The Konoha shinobi, however, remained focused on maintaining his jutsu. A second passed before he changed targets and directed his jutsu towards the hand Madara was using to hold onto his foot. The wind made contact this time, cutting into the hand slightly. Madara immediately jumped backwards, letting go of Naruto's foot. There we go, one limitation found. Another grin developed on Naruto's face. Seems he can't make every part of his body intangible if he's holding on to me or doing something that requires a part of him to be tangible. It seems like a technique of yours connected. Not bad, Madara admitted. However, you still don't have the strength to defeat me. And I'm not even at my strongest. I'm just an imprint of fading chakra placed inside Yagura's mind to control him. This is not even a fraction of my full strength, and I can still take you down. It'd be almost amusing to see you try and fight the real me at full strength. I don't care how strong you actually are. I'll deal with the real you later. For now, I just need to make sure the imprint of you standing in front of me is destroyed so Yagura and the Sanbai can be freed. Naruto replied. He wants to free Aisabu too? The Kyuubi blinked upon hearing Naruto's words. He's not easy to provoke. Guess he's more in control of himself than I thought he would have been. The taunts aren't working and are just a waste of time, Madara realized. Guess I'll change tactics and simply overwhelm him. You want to free the Sanbai too, huh? So you know that he is under my control as well. Well, is that really the wisest decision? I don't think you have ever seen the beast at all. Madara spoke as he started to make a series of hand signs. Why don't I introduce you to him, and show you why that is a bad idea? The masked man slammed his hand onto the ground. A second passed before a loud, rumbling noise occurred throughout the area. A massive creature jumped up from beneath the ground under the pond and landed directly in front of Naruto. It resembled a giant turtle but had a shell similar to a crab and 3 large tails. It had arms and hands that resembled a human's but had no hind legs. There was a red-colored tissue underneath its shell and spikes covered its entire body. Its jawline and forehead were heavily pronounced, which covered its face, making its red eyes the only visible feature of its face. That's Naruto gulped. Aisabu. The Kyuubi shook his head. It's been a long time. It's a shame that I have to see you like this. The giant turtle, Aisabu, said nothing in response to the Kyuubi's commented. His eyes were focused solely on Naruto. Well, you said you wanted to save the Sanbai, so here he is. Regret that statement yet? The masked man questioned. Because you're going to now. Immediately, the Sanbai charged at Naruto. You! Kisame! The rebel leader hissed at the sight of him. What are you doing here? Ah, Mei-san, it's great to see you again. Looks like you and your buddies managed to give Yagura-san a good beating. The man, Kisame, commented with a snicker. He grinned, showing off his shark-like teeth. I didn't realize that we were having an old team reunion and fight, so I'm sorry for showing up late. I'm here now, though, so let's get this reunion started. Before Mei could respond to his statement, Kisame was already reaching for the sword on his back. Immediately, Mei started rushing through hand signs. Lava style, expanding flame rings. A ring of melting flames surrounded Kisame's body and closed in on him. Kisame jumped quickly, avoiding the flames. The flames proceeded to change direction and fly towards him. He then made a series of hand signs. Water style, water shark bomb. Water in the air began to develop into the shape of a large shark. Kisame extended his hand forward, causing the large water shark to rush forward at the approaching melting flames, completely consuming each of them and putting the flames out. After the final flame was put out, the water shark evaporated. With their jutsus cancelled, Kisame pulled out his sword, Samahata, and jumped towards Mei. The Kirigakyu rebel leader jumped away just in time. Kisame slammed the sword down onto the ground, creating a small crater. He then turned his head towards Utakata and rushed towards him, gripping Samehada tightly. The Jinchuriki attempted to dodge, but the swordsman reached first and his sword made contact with the man's left arm. The bandages on the sword unraveled, revealing a shark-like teeth-covered blade. The blade shaved Utakata, causing him to bleed heavily. Kisame attempted to hit Utakata again, but he blew bubbles from his pipe outward directly into the man's face. The bubbles exploded upon contact, causing Kisame to wince back slightly and giving Utakata a chance to place more distance. He then took in a deep breath while Mei started to make more hand signs. Lava style, melting apparition jutsu. Acid scattering. Mei released lava-like acid from her mouth while Utakata breathed out a white corrosive gas of acid. Both forms of acid closed in on the swordsman. Kisame immediately slammed Samehada into the ground, causing water to rush forth from underneath the earth. The water formed a defensive barrier around him that blocked the acid. After a few seconds, Mei's and Utakata's acid began to dissipate. Kisame picked up his sword, dispelling his jutsu, and looked around at his opponents smugly. That all you got? I watched your fight with Yagura and I assumed the jutsus you all used were stronger than that. Are the two of you tired or something? Kisame questioned with a smug grin. He was waiting for us to tire out so this fight would be easier for him. Utakata shook his head. Quite smart of him, but that's unfortunate for us. We need to think of a way to get out of this issue. Mei focused her attention solely on Kisame. She grit her teeth as her eyes narrowed in anger. Kisame, what the hell are you doing here? She demanded. What are you so mad about, Mei-san? Last time I checked, we both ended up leaving Kirigakure and betraying Yagura. Why would you be mad at me for doing exactly what you did? The swordsman questioned. You know the circumstances are different. Mei hissed. I'm trying to better Mizuno Kuni and end tyranny. You, on the other hand, were in favor of it and Yagura's regime. The reasons you left were because you got greedy and attempted an assassination on the daimyo of Mizuno Kuni. Greedy? Well, you can look at it that way if you want. Kisame shrugged. Then again, you just admitted your reasoning. You're upset that I chose to side with Yagura over you initially. I'm upset that you betrayed your comrades and supported the idea of killing innocent people. The rebel leader snarled. You agreed with the man controlling Yagura and slaughtered so many. Oh, so you actually know about that? Interesting. Kisame chuckled in response. You did know about it. Mei's eyes narrowed even further. Killing intent leaked from her body. Don't know why you are pissed, though. Such a thing should make sense to a shinobi who knows about the world as much as you do. It's a fucked up, deceitful world, after all. I'll support anybody who is truthful in this world of lies, no matter what they may want me to do. Kisame replied. He then made the snake hand sign. Water style, exploding water colliding wave. Kisame spat out great volume of water from his mouth and aimed it downwards. The water formed a massive wave that grew in size with every passing second. After a few moments passed, Kisame rode the wave forward towards Utakata and Mei. The two shinobi attempted to get away, but the wave collided with both of them, smacking into them and forcing them underneath the water. The wave drenched the cemetery battlefield, creating a lake of sorts. Mei and Utakata both pulled themselves out of the water and looked around for Kisame, breathing heavily and with completely drenched clothes. While looking for their opponent, Mei noticed that the mini lake Kisame created did not touch the part of the cemetery where Naruto and Yagura were at. Her eyes narrowed in confusion. I know Kisame did that on purpose to prevent the two from drowning while they are immobile like that, but why? Isn't here to kill all of us? Mei questioned. Her eyes then widened as a thought occurred to her. Wait, is he potentially here to kidnap Yagura? Mei was pulled from her thoughts as Kisame jumped out of the water directly underneath her. The rebel leader was knocked in the air from his movement. Kisame took this chance to swing Samehada at her, the bandages on the sword unraveling and preparing to shave her. Mei, however, spat out volcanic acid from her mouth directly at the sword. The acid hit it with enough force to knock it, and Kisame, back slightly. She then took the opportunity to land safely on the newly formed lake's surface and place distance. Utakata blew a bubble that darted through the air towards Kisame's body. Upon contact, the bubble began to consume Kisame's body, completely encasing his left arm. While it captured more of his body, Kisame swung his sword against the edge of the bubble, causing the shark teeth exterior of the blade to connect with the bubble and pop it. Kisame then placed his left hand on the lake's surface. Water style, 5 feeding sharks! Chakra was released from his hand into the water, forming 5 large, ferocious sharks made of water and chakra. The sharks swam rapidly towards Mei and Utakata before swimming in a circular pattern around them. One of them jumped into the air, flying towards Utakata. The Rokubi Jinchuriki jumped backwards slightly and threw a kunai at the shark, causing it to dissipate and turn back into water for a brief moment. The water, however, upon making contact again with the water, reformed into a new shark. It then swam forward at Utakata again and jumped at him. As Utakata moved away to avoid the next attack, one of the other sharks jumped from underneath him and bit into his leg. The Rokubi Jinchuriki winced in pain from the attack before he got dragged by the shark down under the water. Utakata-san! Mei gasped. Before she could do anything to help her comrade, the remaining 3 sharks jumped out around her and charged at her. Mei made a series of hand signs before spitting out lava-like acid from her mouth and formed a barrier around her body. The sharks made contact with the lava, but were unable to break through it. They, however, continued to try and destroy it, smashing their heads and chomping at the barrier. This is bad. I know how this jutsu works. Kisame will be able to sustain those sharks so long as there is water around him. I need to do something about that. I can't keep staying on the defense forever. Mei told herself, realizing what she must do. I got it. Instantly, Mei's barrier of acid dropped. As the sharks closed in on her again, she made a series of hand signs before slamming her hands against the water. The sharks bit into her, causing her to close her eyes in pain, but she remained concentrated on her jutsu. Boil style, evaporation! Channeling chakra into the water of the lake, Mei began to rapidly evaporate the water. The water of the lake changed into water vapor, drying up the battlefield completely, and revealing the cemetery. The sharks, which still had portions of their bodies in the water, evaporated as well and disappeared. Utakata, who had been trying to free himself from the shark that had dragged him under the water, was now freed. He fell to the ground for a moment, and took in a deep breath upon being out of the water. Mei darted over to his side and helped him up. Are you all right? She questioned. Fine, Utakata said as he managed to control his breathing. I don't know why I let myself get hit like that. The words on his lips died as Kisame rushed the 2 shinobi, gripping Samahata tightly. Utakata turned his attention to him and blew on his pipe downward, right along Kisame's path. The bubbles erupted upon contact with the ground, briefly stopping Kisame's charge. Mei then made hand signs before releasing a thick cloud of mist from her mouth directly at the swordsman. Kisame, however, made a series of hand signs before creating a large shark from the water vapor in the air. The shark collided with the mist, piercing it. It then continued to fly towards Utakata and Mei. Utakata jumped away in time, but Mei was unable to escape and was hit by the shark. It forced her backwards into a tree and pinned her. The water from the shark kept applying pressure on her until it managed to destroy the tree. Mei's body immediately fell to the ground. Kisame charged forward at Mei, but Utakata jumped in the way. The Jinchuriki blew a singular large bubble directly between himself and Kisame. Kisame raised his sword and quickly swung it at the bubble to destroy it. Instead of popping the bubble, however, his act caused the large bubble to split into hundreds of smaller bubbles that now surrounded his body. Water style, bubble hell! The small bubbles that surrounded Kisame's body exploded, creating a massive dust cloud. Utakata braced himself, preparing in case if his jutsu did not kill the man. While Utakata for his next move, Kisame jumped forward from the cloud at the Jinchuriki. Before he could properly react, Kisame swung his sword at Utakata's body. The shark teeth shaved Utakata's skin, causing him to bleed further before getting sent flying backwards towards Mei's position. His body collided against hers, causing them both to groan in pain. Heh, that jutsu was actually pretty good. I felt that. Maybe that could actually a kill person, Kisame commented. He keeps mocking and provoking us, trying to get us to not focus fully. Utakata shook his head after the swordsman's comment. This is going nowhere, Mei realized. I'm pretty certain that I or Utakata could take Kisame if we were at full strength, but after Yagura, we're both drained. And hell, after evaporating that entire lake he created, I'm starting to run low on chakra. She looked over in the direction of Naruto and Yagura. Naruto-san, please hurry. We could use any backup possible, even if it's just you. After a moment of staring into each other's eyes, Jiraiya and Itachi broke apart from each other. The two shinobi had jumped backwards. Unlike their interaction in the world of Tsukuyomi, the two shinobi were back in a tense, fighting position. Jiraiya was breathing heavily and panting while Itachi looked at him in what appeared to be quiet silence. "Damn you!" Jiraiya hissed at him. "Even after experiencing my Tsukuyomi, you still remain able to fight," Itachi commented plainly. "I should have expected something like that. The title of Sannin wasn't bestowed to you for nothing. I'm not going to let you hit anything like that again. You die right here, right now," Jiraiya shouted as he bit his thumb and made a series of hand signs. Summoning Jutsu. Jiraiya's jutsu called forth Gamabunta. The giant toad boss stood directly between the two shinobi. He took a moment to look at his surroundings before briefly looking at the man in front of him and his summoner. "Have I really pushed you enough to use your toad summons, Jiraiya-san? I'll consider this an honor," Itachi stated. Jiraiya ignored the Uchiha's comment and turned his attention to the toad boss. "Gamabunta, you'll receive sake sometime tomorrow after this battle. For now, I need the help fighting." "Fighting Uchiha Itachi, huh? In Kirigakure of all places?" Gamabunta questioned. "Whatever, I won't question it. I'll do what I can to help you take down this traitor." Instantly, Gamabunta spat out oil from his mouth directly at Itachi. The Uchiha jumped away before making a series of hand signs. 5 clones of the Uchiha appeared directly above the toad boss's head. Before they landed on their target, Gamabunta pulled out the blade on his side and sliced through each of the clones. Upon contact, the clones exploded. The attacks, however, did not faze the toad. Itachi decided to change tactics and pulled out a series of shuriken. He tossed all of the shuriken at once, then started to make hand signs. Fire style, Phoenix Sage Flower Nail Crimson. Itachi exhaled fire from his mouth directly onto the shuriken, igniting them. The on-fire shuriken darted through the air towards Jiraiya, the fire increasing their speed. The Sannin dodged, avoiding getting stuck by the shuriken. Itachi then made a gesture with his left hand, causing the shuriken to change direction and fly backwards towards Jiraiya again. Once again, the Sannin dodged the attack. Gamabunta opened his mouth and unleashed a deluge of water directly at the flame-covered shuriken. Itachi made another gesture with his left hand, changing the direction of the shuriken and getting them away from the toad boss's attack. The shuriken were now circling around Gamabunta's body. Itachi started to make more hand signs. Fire style, Grand Shuriken Inferno. The flames that had surrounded the shuriken magnified and expanded inward, causing the area within the circle to be caught on fire. Gamabunta winced slightly, getting burned, but jumped into the air to avoid the flames. The shuriken, however, started to rise, expanding the overall range of the flames. The toad boss, however, moved through the air at a faster rate than the shuriken. He managed to escape the circle and continued to move through the air until he was directly above Itachi's body and started to descend. Itachi quickly moved out of the way, avoiding getting crushed. Jiraiya quickly rushed over to Itachi's new position. He created a massive, spiraling orb of chakra in his hands. Itachi turned around just in time to see Jiraiya slamming it into his body. Odama Rasengan! As soon as the jutsu made contact, Itachi's body erupted into a murder of crows. The crows screeched as they flew into the sky to get away from Jiraiya. The Sannin then looked over at Gamabunta and nodded his head. Gamabunta proceeded to build up oil in his mouth before spitting out a massive ball of oil into the sky, directly above the crow's position. Jiraiya then rushed through a series of hand signs. Fire style, Toad Oil Fire Rain. Jiraiya released a singular fireball that rushed through the air towards the oil ball. Upon contact, a massive explosion occurred in the air before the oil ball, now on fire, turned into multiple fireballs that rained down from the sky towards the crows. Each fireball made contact with the crow, causing it to scream in pain before disappearing. After each crow had disappeared, Itachi had reappeared on the ground, gripping his left arm. The cloak had been burned through on the arm, exposing his skin and revealing a burn wound. "Looks like I had caught you." Jiraiya smirked at the sight of the Uchiha. "So it seems," Itachi replied as he let go of his left arm. He started rotating around slightly before it bringing his hands together. "I hope you do not think I am through, Jiraiya-san. I have more in me. If you have any intent on surviving, you better," the Sannin replied, as he prepared for their battle to continue. "Although Itachi, you better hurry up and get to a point where it's realistic for you to retreat. The Sannin resisted the urge to request. I know you're afraid of this Setsugai suspecting you, but we need to hurry this up. Naruto and the others may not have much time left. With that thought in mind, Jiraiya rushed forward towards Itachi, with Gamabunta following behind. Aisabu, as he charged forward at Naruto, launched himself into the air and flew until he was directly above him. He then fell downward. Naruto jumped away in time just as the Sanbai's body made contact with the ground. Upon contact, coral spikes sprouted from the ground under the pond. He can create that coral too? Naruto's eyes widened. Where do you think his Jinchuriki got the ability from? The Kyuubi replied. If you remember anything from that fight, do not, under any circumstances, get hit by one of those. Just focus on the original mission and take down the Uchiha controlling him. Naruto nodded in understanding. He turned his attention back to the masked man and made a singular hand sign. The Uzumaki created another 100 clones before they rushed in unison towards him. Before they could get close to him, however, Aisabu rolled himself into his shell. The spikes on the shell proceeded to increase in size. He then rolled forward towards Naruto and his clones in his shell. The Uzumaki noticed the movement immediately and cursed. That technique Yugure used already. We gotta get away. Along with the original, each of the Naruto clones jumped out of the way in time as the Sanbai, within his shell, barreled forward. He turned around instantly, however, and continued to move towards them. This time, the shell made contact with 10 of the clones, crushing them instantly. Aisabu continued to roll around towards the other clones. We won't be able to get anywhere close to Madara if he keeps doing that. We need to get him out of the shell. Naruto realized. Maybe with. Content with his idea, Naruto pulled out a piece of sealing paper and a pen from his jacket. Seeing his action, each of the clones did the same. As Aisabu rushed through 15 more clones, destroying them, the original and the remaining 75 clones managed to finish their seals as quickly as possible. They then all grouped together, directly in front of Aisabu and tossed the tags forward just as Aisabu approached them. Uzumaki Fuinjutsu, Hurricane Manifestation Barrage! All of the seals activated, each releasing a massive tornado upward. The tornadoes managed to capture the Sanbai and hold him in place. The winds prevented him from moving and cut into his shell. After a few moments, the combined force of each tornado managed to pull Aisabu upwards, knocking him out of his shell as he was sent flying outside the tornado. Alright, guess I can get him out of his shell, Naruto stated as he turned his attention back to Madara. Just as he turned his head, Aisabu adjusted his body in order to face Naruto and his clones. He then started accumulating a massive amount of water in his mouth. Water style, Great Water Mass Bullet! Aisabu released a humongous ball of water from his mouth towards Naruto and his clones. None of them reacted in time. The water ball collided directly in the middle of the group and expanded further. All clones were destroyed instantly. The original Naruto was knocked away, rolling on the ground for a moment before remaining still, face down in the pond water against the ground. He pulled himself up and looked up momentarily. His eyes widened. Shit dash! Naruto was forced to jump away, the rest of his thought dying on his lips, as Aisabu landed on the ground directly where he had been. Coral, once again, rushed upward from beneath the upward. Naruto ran quickly through the area, avoiding the rising coral spikes that followed him as he rushed away. Once the coral stopped, Naruto stopped running and turned his attention back to Aisabu. I can't keep my attention away from him, even for a moment, Naruto realized. The second I do, he attacks me. I'm not able to fight Madara at all like this. Maybe dash. Kyuubi was about to speak, but he stopped as he saw a mist being released from Aisabu's mouth. Kid! Make sure that doesn't hit you. That mist will trap you within a genjutsu that will force you to relieve the traumas of your past. It'll hold you still while either he or the Uchiha kills you. Naruto's eyes widened. He quickly started to rush away as the mist grew close to him. The mist, however, moved faster and gained on him. In response, Naruto quickly turned around and made hand signs. Wind style, Great Breakthrough! The Uzumaki released a gust of wind from his mouth. The wind blew away the oncoming mist, preventing it from reaching Naruto. The mist, however, eventually overcame the wind and continued on its path. Naruto decided to change tactics and pulled out another sealing paper. He quickly drew the scene just as the wind was about to reach him and placed on the ground beneath him. Uzumaki Fuinjutsu, Hurricane Manifestation! A singular tornado-like developed and blew upward directly over Naruto's body. Naruto then jumped upward, allowing himself to move along with the wind. The wind skyrocketed him upwards, preventing the mist from reaching him. Naruto was sent straight through the top and flew in the sky above. Naruto then angled his position, making it so that way his body was facing Madara's, and allowed himself to descend onto him. He then began to channel chakra into his right palm. A massive orb of chakra developed. Odama Rasengan! The masked man turned his head towards Naruto just in time. As Naruto's orb of chakra was about to make contact with his body, it moved straight through his body instead of hitting him. Naruto, and his Odama Rasengan, continued forward and slammed into the ground underneath, creating a massive explosion that developed into a crater. None of the debris of dirt and water hit Madara's body as it shot upward. After a few seconds, after Naruto's jutsu faded, Madara became tangible again and grabbed him by the neck and held him upwards. Naruto struggled and began channeling chakra into his right hand again, but Madara quickly slammed Naruto's body downward, canceling the jutsu. The Uzumaki choked out blood. That was clever. You managed to sneak up on me like that and could have hit me. Good thing I turned back in time, the masked man commented. He grabbed Naruto again by the neck and held him up, his mask pressed against the blonde's face. Your father managed to hit me with a technique like that and nearly killed me. I'm not going to let you do the same thing to me. Now why don't you relieve some torment while I kill you? Before Naruto could reply, Madara tossed his body directly into the mist Isabu had created. The mist surrounded Naruto's body for a moment, as it slowly drilled itself into his ear. His eyes widened as he began to scream in pain. Kid! The QB shouted. Naruto could not hear him, however. He was already lost to the mist. Kid! Make sure that doesn't hit you. That mist will trap you within a genjutsu that will force you to relieve the traumas of your past. It'll hold you still while either he or the Uchiha kills you. Naruto repeated the QB's words in his head as he began to look at the world around him. He was certain that he was supposed to be recalling moments of his own past, but nothing about the world seemed familiar to him. He was currently standing in the center of a plaza of an unknown village. The sun was starting to set, painting the streets and the buildings in a red-orangish color. People were walking around him, acting as if they could not see him. It wasn't until one person, a shinobi wearing the Kirigakyo forehead protector, walked by that Naruto was able to piece together where he was. I'm in Kiri, but why? Naruto blinked in confusion. I've never been in the village until now. And I've never seen this plaza. These can't be my memories. MOM. Dad! Please! Naruto heard shouting in the area around him. He quickly rushed in the direction of the noise in time to see a group of people in front of an apartment building in the plaza. There were two elder adults, both of whom were dressed like civilians, standing in front of a boy in disapproval. They were completely indistinguishable and unrecognizable to Naruto. The boy, however, was very familiar to him. He recognized the gray hair on his head. He also noticed a white shirt with green flowers that resembled a different green flower he had seen. That's Yagura! Naruto shouted. Yagura, nor the two civilians, heard him. They were too focused on their own conversation. Please! Mom, Dad! I didn't want any of this. Please! Please! The child Yagura begged. Tears were falling from his pink eyes. Stop calling us Mom and Dad. We aren't a family anymore. The male civilian said firmly as he looked down on the crying child coldly. You're the Mizuki's family now. You're his weapon. He's not my father. He's not taking me away and he's not my father. Please, Dad. Yagura continued to cry. You're his weapon, Yagura. Not our child. The female civilian replied with the same cold tone as her husband. You're not even human anymore. He already sealed that fucking turtle inside of you. Biba dash, leave already, demon! The man hissed at the boy. Yagura did not move. He remained still, crying. I said leave! The man proceeded to kick Yagura's stomach. The little boy immediately fell down and gripped his stomach tightly. Hey! Naruto shouted as he rushed forward in between Yagura and the man. Get the fuck away from him! Naruto raised his hand and tried to punch the man and get away from Yagura. His action failed, however, and his fist moved through the man's body. Naruto's eyes widened as he turned his head around, wondering why he wasn't able to do anything. Instead, he saw the man deliver another kick to Yagura's stomach. I said get! You're not our child anymore. You aren't welcome here anymore. Go back to your precious Mizuki's mansion and go to some tool shack or something. It's where a creature like you belongs," the man informed him sharply. After the man finished his speech, the area around Naruto completely disappeared. The plaza, Yagura, and the parents disappeared. Naruto remained still as he watched the world around him change. He was now standing in a small park, covered with a few trees, a swing, a slide, and a jungle gym. Kids were climbing and swinging, playing in the park. "What dash?" Just as Naruto was about to question his surroundings, he heard laughter. He turned his attention and saw a group of kids kicking a boy. Naruto rushed forward to get a better look. There were 4 kids who all looked around the ages of 12 to 14, and were all wearing Kirigikyu forehead protectors. One of the kids had his foot extended forward and on the body of another kid. Naruto looked a little closer, and that the kid in the middle was Yagura. The boy seemed to be a few years older than he had in the previous image, but he still looked incredibly young. "Ah, what's wrong, little turtle? Can't get up, huh?" the kid holding Yagura down with his foot taunted. "That's what happens when you flip a turtle on its back. They can't do anything. They're useless." Another kid laughed. I'm in Yagura's memories," Naruto finally realized. The blonde's eyes softened as he watched the kids torment Yagura. He could feel himself tear up slightly as he watched Yagura try to pull himself off the ground, only for the kid holding him down to push him down again and keep him on the ground. It felt very reminiscent to him. A few of the kids in the academy behaved like this around him. But these kids, they are worse. They never got this physical. And none of them knew about the Kyuubi. If they did, would they have behaved like this? Naruto shook his head at the thought. "Hey guys, shouldn't we stop this?" One of the kids finally asked the rest of the group. "What if the Mizukage finds out? We could be in big trouble. Why would the Mizukage care? The Sandaime doesn't care about any of us. He certainly won't care about a stupid, little turtle," the kid holding Yagura down replied. He immediately shoved his foot down harder, causing Yagura to wince in pain. "He's weak, after all. He's supposed to be some cool, big weapon, but here he is, unable to beat a couple of genin. Humph. Some weapon, huh?" Naruto's fists tightened. He wanted badly to intervene and help Yagura up and fend off the bullies holding him down. He wanted to be the person that never came to help him. However, he recalled the previous image. These were just memories. He couldn't do anything about the scene in front of him. This was, in some ways, harder than watching his own life. "Please stop." Naruto shook his head as tears fell down. As if to mock his request, the scene changed again, and the world around him vanished. It was, however, quickly replaced by another image. Naruto was now standing in the middle of an office room that reminded him of the Hokage's office. Standing in front of the room was Yagura, who now appeared to be only a year or 2 younger than Naruto and was now wearing a Kirigikyu forehead protector. He was bowing his head in the presence of a man sitting down at a desk. The man wore the blue robes and the hat of the Mizukage. Not much was definable about his appearance, other than the black hair that was covered fully by the Mizukage's hat and the vacant expression in his eyes. "Yagura, I was expecting you to be combat ready by now. I need the Sanbai out in the battlefield," the man told Yagura. "I understand, Sandaime-sama. I have not been a genin for long, but I promise, I'll be ready for combat soon," Yagura replied, still bowing. "Not soon enough, though. All the reports I've received about your development concern me, Yagura. Your reports show that you skipped classes in the academy and seem to never contribute to any meaningful discussion there. You are on a genin team now, but both Terumi Mei and Hashigaki Kisame already outclass you." The Sandaime Mizukage's blank eyes narrowed slightly at the boy in front of him. "I'm starting to wonder if I chose the wrong candidate for the Biju. At your current level, you're a useless tool like this, Yagura. Yagura looked up to face the Mizukage to protest. He was silenced, however, as the man held out his right hand. "Focus on your development, Yagura, or I will rip the Sanbai out of you and find a new host," he stated sharply, causing the boy's eyes to widen. "Your Kirigakyu's weapon, your sole purpose in life is to kill enemy shinobi on the battlefield in my name." Naruto tried to close his eyes as more memories developed for him to watch. He watched Yagura get kicked out of a restaurant that refused to service demons. When Yagura was of age and a shinobi, Naruto saw a memory of a woman attempting to kill him for not being able to save her son when they went on a mission together. Memory by memory continued to occur. Each one caused him to cry more and caused him to hurt more and more on the inside. Please stop. Just stop already. Maz Jinchu. A faint voice slowly entered his mind. Naruto closed his eyes and attempted to concentrate on the voice. Anything to stop focusing on the images of Yagura's childhood. Kurama's. Are you there? Kurama's Jinchuriki, can you hear me? Naruto's eyes opened in surprise. The voice, was it calling for him? I can hear you, he finally said. Instantly, the images around him vanished. Naruto braced himself, preparing for another memory of Yagura's. Instead, however, he found himself in a black void. Floating in the void in front of his body was the Sanbai. Finally, you broke free! I've been trying to get you out of that for a while, the turtle declared. Naruto's eyes widened further in shock. Was the Sanbai trying to talk to him? And not kill him? You! Naruto's voice was shaky, uncertain if he was hearing things correctly. Please don't talk and act like that. The Sanbai spoke harshly. I don't have much time. I couldn't put enough of my consciousness in my mist to engage in useless dialogue. Besides, it would be to your benefit to listen to me and get out so you can find that blasted Uchiha. I understand. Naruto nodded his head. I'm just shocked, I guess. Did you manage to break through Madara's control? No. However, his control was weakened slightly when you and Kurama entered Yagura's mindscape. He's had to divert his attention on you, so his control weakened slightly. Not enough for me to break free, but enough that I put a small amount of my consciousness into the mist so I could speak to you when he inevitably made me use the technique against you. The Sanbai explained. That's why I also used that technique to show you Yagura's past. I had presumed that you would have been too focused on your history if you had seen your own. I wasn't expecting you to be so focused on Yagura's life. I couldn't help it. It's not right. That's not something anybody should have experienced. Naruto shouted as tears came back to his eyes. I'm sorry for messing up and allowing myself to get focused on them, but how could I not? That's not right. That's immoral. No child should grow up like that. I suppose that is my fault. I should have realized that you would be sensitive to those types of memories. You are a Jinchuriki as well. You would naturally relate to him. The Sanbai replied. I stand by my point. Nobody should grow up like that. Not Yagura, not me, not anybody. Naruto stated sharply as he brushed away his tears. He then looked the giant turtle in the eyes. Not even someone like you or the Kyuubi. The Sanbai opened his mouth to comment back, but he paused after Naruto's comment. He looked at the blonde in front of him in amazement. Kurama's Jinchuriki, what is your name? He questioned. Naruto. Uzumaki Naruto. Naruto replied. Naruto-san, tell me why you would care about myself or Kurama in such a fashion. He questioned. Aren't we the root cause of yours and Yagura's suffering? Wouldn't you wish that on us? I wouldn't wish it on anybody. Nobody deserves a life like that. The Konoha shinobi's eyes narrowed. And you and I mean the Kyuubi. You too have suffered too, haven't you? You always get sealed up in some Jinchuriki, and have to watch the same sad life over and over again. His eyes lowered slightly in realization. You too, and the rest of the Biju, may have suffered even more than all of us. The Sanbai looked down at Naruto in amazement. The Biju had never seen a human speak so passionately like this. Even Yagura, who he had a good relationship with, did not speak like that. Naruto, however, was talking in a way that reminded him of his own father. Heh. The thought caused the giant turtle to laugh. Uzumaki Naruto, you amuse me. You speak like a man I used to know. A few more seconds passed by before he stopped laughing. Naruto-san, please, call me Aisabu. Naruto's eyes widened at the gesture, but smiled brightly in response. Oh, of course, Aisabu. I can tell you're a good child and I'd love to talk to you more, but we don't have time. Aisabu stated sharply as his face stiffened. I need to make sure you get out of this mist as quick as possible. Once you get out, you need to destroy that essence of the Uchiha controlling me and Yagura. Only when he's gone will Yagura's consciousness be allowed to waken, and he and I can take control again. Do you have any advice for that? Naruto questioned. I've been trying to destroy him, but he seems to move faster and stronger than me. He really seems out of my league. You are Kurama's Jinchuriki. I know you have the chakra and the innate abilities to do it. Aisabu replied. But I can't control anymore. I'm lucky I can use as much as I can without losing control to him. Naruto's eyes widened in realization. But in this case, maybe that's not a bad thing. Mention me to him. Kurama's honorable. He'll let you go. The Sanbai replied with a small smile. That smile quickly faded. Anyway, we've wasted too much time. I'm pulling you out of the genjutsu. Prepare to act fast. With those words, Aisabu and the void that had surrounded Naruto disappeared. Naruto returned to Yagura's mindscape to find himself being held up by his neck once again. Madara was holding him up with his right hand and had a kunai in his left hand. He rushed his hand forward, preparing to force the kunai into his heart. Naruto, however, managed to react in time and delivered a punch to Madara's face. The action took the man by surprise, causing him to drop Naruto and the kunai. The Uzumaki took the moment to jump away. You managed to break free from the mist? I thought you wouldn't be able to do that. Madara commented, frowning behind his mask. I guess I should have prepared in case you could have. I shouldn't have taken my time and let you suffer in those memories for too long. The Uzumaki paid no mind to Madara's words. Instead, he turned his head upwards toward the Kyuubi's cage. Hey, please, channel as much chakra into me as possible. Make me enter that version 2 form or something. Naruto thought, hoping the mental link between him and the Kyuubi was still working even in Yagura's mindscape. The connection seemed to work, as he noticed the Kyuubi's eyes widen. Kid, there is no chance in hell you'll be able to keep control of your body in that case. The fox replied. You'll dash, then why don't you take control? Naruto questioned. Once again, the fox's eyes widened. He was almost gaping at Naruto. You're not bullshitting me, are you? He asked quietly. We need to fight at full strength, and the only way for my body to have that full strength to beat him is for you to take control. I trust you can do it. I trust you that you'll give me my body back once this is all done. Naruto answered, giving the Kyuubi a serious look. This is serious, Kurama. This is so we can free both Yagura and Aisabu from his control. The blonde pounded his fists together. Aisabu met with me in the genjutsu, and he tells me we need to do this. I trust you can free him and manage to defeat the Uchiha. Naruto's requests and words had stunned the fox so badly that he didn't even correct Naruto's usage of his real name. His container was willing to trust him with his own body? He was that intent on freeing both Yagura and Aisabu? He even used Aisabu's name. And he met up with him. He repeated the words in his head. Fine. We'll try it. Alright Naruto, let's do this. Kurama spoke out loud, causing Naruto to grin. This is going to be overwhelming and may hurt, but don't fight it. I'll honor your request this once, but for now, it's my turn. The Uchiha is dead. Naruto's body became covered by even more chakra. The chakra began attaching itself to his body, forming what appeared to be a layer of red-black skin. 3 more tails developed. Each of the tails that had surrounded his body became more pronounced and solidified. Bones also developed on Naruto's body, creating a skeleton that surrounded him. Madara looked at Naruto's new body in confusion. Are you entering version 2? Can you control that level of chakra? Naruto looked towards the masked man. A smirk developed on his face. He can't, that's where I come in. The Kyuubi, speaking through Naruto's body, declared. It's about time you pay Madara. Madara had no time to reply. The Kyuubi-controlled Naruto already charged forward at him. Water style, 4 shark shower. A large orb of water developed in Kisame's left hand. He held out the orb slightly before all of the water in it surged upward. After a few seconds, the water turned into rain that covered the cemetery. The raindrops changed shape, resembling tiny water sharks. Mei and Utakata moved around, dodging each individual raindrop and preventing themselves from getting bitten. Mei, however, was unable to get away from all, and a water shark made contact with left leg. It bit into it hard, causing her to close eyes in pain as blood started to pour out. She quickly shook her leg, flicking the water shark off, before returning to her attempt at avoiding the attacks. Kisame, however, rushed her. The swordsman swung Samahata, trying to shave at her again. Mei, however, rolled out of the way in time. She made a singular hand sign before quickly stomping her foot on the ground. Water style, water blade. A column of underground water rushed forward directly underneath Kisame's body, causing him to move backwards to avoid it. Mei rushed over to the water and extended her hand into it. The column of water quickly changed shape, resembling a blade made of water. She swung it around slightly, adjusting herself to using it, before she charged at Kisame. Oh, wasn't that technique made by the Yondaime Kazekage? Are you really going to use a water technique made by a Suna shinobi? Kisame questioned with a smirk as he charged at her, gripping Samehada. Whatever. Guess I'll get a chance to see if your kenjutsu got any better. Kisame's Samehada came into direct contact with Mei's blade of water. The weapons clashed and both shinobi were unable to get the edge on each other. Kisame quickly swung again, attacking lower this time. Mei, however, avoided the attack by jumping into the air. She rushed forward directly at Kisame, trying to stab him with her blade, but the swordsman reacted quickly and blocked her blade with his own. The two were at a stalemate. I'm impressed that you actually can hold me off with a flimsy water sword like that, Mei-san. Kisame admitted as he tried to overpower her. Certainly this is because of the jutsu, right? There's no way you could match me out like this with just kenjutsu. You are right, it is the jutsu. Mei replied with a smirk. My water blade's strength is based on my own chakra, as it determined the amount and strength of the water used to forge it. It's a lot stronger sword than you would have expected. I see. Interesting technique. I'd try and learn it, but Samehada might get jealous if I try and use any other type of sword. The shark-like shinobi stated with a laugh. As the two former teammates attempted to overpower the other, Utakata brought his pipe to his mouth. He channeled the Rokubi's chakra into his mouth as he began blowing. Acid bubbles. Utakata blew a series of bubbles that were colored dark blue directly at Kisame's body. The swordsman looked over with his peripheral vision in time to see the approaching attack. He, therefore, stopped his attack and moved backwards just in time to avoid the attacks. Utakata then made a hand sign, causing the bubbles to erupt, releasing a dark blue liquid. The liquid rushed forward again at Kisame. The swordsman, however, continued to dodge the attacks, causing the liquid to make contact with the ground and causing the earth to melt upon contact. Mei then rushed forward at Kisame, raising her blade of water slightly as she attempted to cut him down. Kisame blocked her oncoming attack with Samehada. He then swung his sword again at a slight angle. Mei was unable to block fully and the shark teeth on Kisame's body punctured her arm slightly, causing her grip on her blade to weaken. Kisame then took the opportunity to deliver a kick against Mei's hand, fully knocking the water blade out of her hand and causing it to turn to plain water. You see, that's how I know it had to have been the jutsu and not your kenjutsu. You made a blade strong enough to match Samehada, but you clearly don't know how to fight against a swordsman with more experience than you. Kisame taunted his former teammate. He swung his sword once again at Mei's body. She was unable to get away this time, and took the brunt of his attack. The shark teeth ripped into the skin on her stomach and chest before shaving it off. Mei shouted in pain as she fell to the ground, blood dripping heavily. Had enough? Kisame taunted as he pointed Samehada at her body. Fuck you. Mei hissed as she pulled herself off the ground. Her hands started to glow green as she quickly brought them to her chest. Do you think you can just heal those wounds? In the middle of a battle? The swordsman laughed. Desperate, aren't we? Kisame prepared to rush her and Mei started moving backwards to place distance between her and the shinobi. Before Kisame could actually attack, however, he was bombarded by a series of bubbles. The bubbles exploded directly onto his back, causing him to fall forward slightly. He managed to catch himself before he actually hit the ground, however. Kisame turned his head to see Utakata standing at a distance, blowing bubbles from his pipe. The shark-like shinobi shook his head. You tend to get some dirty hits on me, you know that, Utakata? He asked with a smirk. I appreciate that in a shinobi. The swordsman darted towards the Rokubi Jinchuriki, avoiding any bubbles the shinobi breathed out. Seeing his attempts to stop the man were not working, Utakata turned his body downward and blew another, larger bubble. The bubble consumed his body and started to float upward just as Kisame reached him and tried to swing his sword at him. Now in the air, Utakata created a small hole in his bubble and began blowing out dark blue bubbles towards Kisame's body. He avoided each bubble, causing them to hit the ground and cause the earth to melt slightly after the impact. He then ran through a series of hand signs as a large orb of water developed in his hand again. Kisame held it upward, causing the water to surge upwards and create rain. The rain changed shape into tiny water sharks. The sharks rushed forward to one spot, Utakata's bubble. The sharks were unable to pierce the bubble, but they shoved it downward to the ground. Utakata bit his lip as he tried to push the bubble upwards again, but he was unable to. The constant barrage of water sharks were forcing him downward. As soon as the bubble made contact with the ground, Kisame charged forward and swung Samahata. The sword managed to break through the bubble. The water sharks that had been pushing the bubble downward now changed targets, focusing solely on Utakata's body. The Rokubi Jinchuriki shouted in pain as multiple sharks bit into different parts of his body. A few seconds passed before he jumped away and shoved them off of him. Bite marks and blood covered his entire body, however. Utakata jumped over to Mei's position. The rebel leader had used medical ninjutsu to stop herself from bleeding too extensively, but she still appeared to be exhausted. It seemed as if she was struggling to stand. "We need backup," Utakata informed her. "Otherwise we are dead." "I realize," Mei hissed in response as she closed her eyes. They needed to either alert help or think of some way to defeat Kisame fast. At the rate the battle was going, either she nor Utakata would be able to remain fighting for too long. Toad conflagration. Gamabunta opened his mouth before exhaling a massive gust of wind from his lungs. The wind contained traces of oil inside of it and moved around the battlefield. As the wind oil mixture was sent out, Jiraiya breathed out a spray of fire that made contact with the mixture. A giant, flaming cyclone developed and quickly ignited the area entirely. The flames managed to pierce Itachi's body, burning it up and causing it to disappear in a poof of smoke. Crows flew throughout the area, trying to get away from the flames. The fire, however, moved too fast and had expanded far too much. The crows were unable to properly escape and were burned. One crow, however, continued to fly and get away. It flew above the battlefield and seemed to be panting. That had to be enough. Jiraiya-san hit me too many times for me to be valuable, Itachi told himself. Any more development in our conflict, and we will end up burning the village of Kirigakure to the ground. I've done my part, and Zetsu will not be suspicious. I can retreat for now. With that thought, the crow continued to fly away further into the village, away from the battle with Jiraiya. As the crow started to fly away, Jiraiya made a signal to Gamabunta. The toad nodded before he spat out a deluge of water, completely engulfing the flames that he and Jiraiya had created, putting them out. With the fire gone, the Sannin jumped on the toad boss's head. "We need to hurry into the village, Gamabunta. If Itachi was here, his partner must surely be nearby. We need to make sure he hasn't done any damage. We need to contact Mei." Jiraiya informed the toad sharply. "Just tell me the direction to go." Gamabunta replied with a nod. Jiraiya pointed in a direction, urging Gamabunta to start hurrying. "I hope that was enough time. Naruto, Mei, Utakata, please be safe." The Sannin closed his eyes to pray. Kurama, using Naruto's body, darted towards Madara, extending his hands out like claws. He swung them directly at the man's face, but the attack failed and the claw went through his body. "If you really are the QB taking control, I would have assumed you would have been wiser than to attack me like this." "It's useless," the masked man commented. "And if you really were the man who controlled me all those years ago, you should realize that I'm not stupid and know what I'm doing," the QB replied with a grin. "Oh wait, you aren't that man. You're just a fragment of his chakra, a leftover essence that appears to have picked up a tendency to taunt to help it cope with the fact that it'll one day fade into nothingness." A scowl developed behind Madara's mask as he quickly jumped backwards. He brought out a chain from his wristlets and quickly surrounded the QB-possessed body. He then tossed him forward, directly in front of Isabu's body. "Sambai, why don't you do the favors and extinguish this pathetic fox?" he shouted. Isabu nodded his head before it channeled chakra into his mouth. He then spat out massive balls of water directly at the approaching body. Kurama, however, grinned in response. The skeleton around his body extended outward, pushing with enough strength to destroy the chains holding him down. Now freed, the QB proceeded to move quickly, avoiding the Sanbai's barrage of attacks. He then jumped into the air for a moment before slamming his body hard against the ground. Tailed Beast Shockwave! The resulting impact of Kurama slamming himself on the ground created a massive shockwave on the ground, causing everything to shake. Isabu felt himself losing balance after the shockwaves. Similarly, Madara actually lost his balance and fell. Kurama noticed that and dashed towards his body. Kurama reached him quickly and delivered a slash at him with his claws. His attack connected and Madara's cloak was pierced slightly, blood to pour out lightly. The QB attempted to slash at him again, but Madara's body quickly vanished as a distortion in space quickly consumed his body. He reappeared from another distortion directly behind the possessed body. Madara held out his hands, causing the chains on his wristlet to rush forward again towards Kurama. The Kyuubi, however, turned around in time and managed to grab hold of the chains with his hands. He gripped tightly on them as Madara tried to pull on them. "These chains of yours have been pissing me off," the Kyuubi said plainly as he tightened his grip even further. Instantly, the chains ignited with fire. The wristlets on Madara's hands caught on fire as well, and he was forced to drop them. The chain fell into the pond water on the ground, still burning despite being in water. "You shouldn't have done that," Madara said. Behind his mask, his eyes widened. "Amaterasu!" Black flames surrounded Kurama and closed in on him. He managed to jump away in time, but the flames did make contact, causing him to wince heavily at the burn. The black flames began to slowly spread over his body, causing Kurama to breathe out a gust of wind from his mouth to extinguish the flames. "This isn't my body, this is the kid's, and he's human. I need to make sure I don't get hit by those flames anymore. Too much of that could kill him," Kurama informed himself. "Fire style, blast wave wild dance." The masked man released a large stream of fire that developed into a spiral pattern as it flew towards Kurama. The fox quickly dodged the flames before rushing at the Uchiha. The flames continued to fly forward until they disappeared in a distortion in space. As Kurama was about to reach Madara and strike at him, the flames reappeared from a new distortion in space directly in between himself and the Uchiha. "What?" The Kyuubi's eyes were wide. The fox was forced to jump to avoid the oncoming attack. He was too close to the flames to get fully away, however, and the flames burned at his legs, causing him to wince in pain. Seeing him in the air, Madara snapped his finger before pointing his finger at him. Aisabu nodded his head, understanding the request, and began charging chakra in his mouth. A sphere of black and white chakra began to develop. "Baijidama!" Aisabu launched the sphere of chakra directly towards Kurama. His eyes widened in surprise as he quickly looked upward and inhaled. He proceeded to exhale a powerful gust of wind that pushed his body backwards, pushing him down towards the ground and, in the process, avoiding the attack. As soon as the Kyuubi landed on the ground, Madara rushed him. His eyes, beneath his mask, were open wide. "Amaterasu!" More black flames flew towards Kurama. The Biju jumped backwards, avoiding the attack, before inhaling and exhaling, sending another gust of wind forward. The wind extinguished the approaching flames. They continued to rush forward towards Madara's body, but the wind blew right through him, having no effect. "Frustrated yet, Kyuubi? Your attacks aren't working," the masked man remarked. "I'm biding my time," the fox hissed in response. "He has a point. I need to fight more carefully. It's been a while since I've fought, especially in a body like this. I need to not be stupid. His stupid intangibility technique has a weakness and I need to exploit it," Kurama thought to himself. He recalled the battle up to this point, even remembering Naruto's original attempt at fighting him. He made a note of every time either he or Naruto actually landed a hit on him. Finally, an idea struck him, causing him to grin. "Got it," Madara made a hand sign, urging Aisabu to move forward. The sandbai rolled itself into its shell and started to roll forward directly at Kurama. The giant turtle attempted to trample him, but the fox was quicker than Naruto had been. Kurama managed to keep moving, making sure that Aisabu's attack would not him. Each time, however, he would slowly inch himself closer to Madara. After getting sufficiently close enough, the Kyuubi swung his claws forward. "Nine-Tails Twister!" The gesture of swiping his claws created a tornado that rushed forward at Madara. The tornado reached the masked man quickly, but once again did no damage. The Uchiha stood still for a moment in the center of the tornado. In the process, however, Aisabu stopped rolling forward and trying to attack Kurama. After a few seconds, Madara walked out of the tornado, still completely unharmed. As soon as he walked out, Aisabu continued to roll forward. Kurama paid no attention to the sandbai, however, and dashed towards Madara. He got dangerously close to his body and swung his claws at him again. The sudden movement and action took the Uchiha by surprise and caused his body to disappear in a distortion in space. Great! He did it! Now, Kurama, stay focused. Sense for his energy. Look for his negative emotions, the Biju told himself. Within seconds, the Kyuubi felt the emotions he was looking for, a sense of overwhelming despair that it was going to one day fade from existence, and a sense of anger that two intruders were attempting to ruin his purpose. Kurama turned his head just in time to see a distortion in space open up. There. Just as Madara started to exit the distortion in space, Kurama pointed the ends of each of his tails directly at him. He channeled chakra into each tail, causing them to light up. 9 tails beam! Each of the tails released a powerful beam of pure, reddish-orange chakra directly at Madara's body. All 9 beams connected at various parts of Madara's body, causing his body to grow limp. Blood starting pouring out of the points of his body hit. Ah! He yelled in pain. The masked man tried to pull himself away from the beams, but the power was too much for him to overpower. He found himself unable to even use Kamui to make himself intangible. He was stuck like this, forced to experience the force of this technique. Can't become visible, huh? You can't so long as your body is linked to the physical world. My beams will do just that, the Kyuubi said smugly as he maintained the use of his jutsu from his tails. I'd say look forward to going to hell, but you won't. You're not even the real Uchiha Madara. You're just an essence. A creature as unoriginal and despicable as you has no afterlife. There's only an eternal death and disappearance. The masked man continued to scream. Satisfied with his work, Kurama opened his mouth and began generating chakra. A black and white sphere began to develop in his mouth. By Jadama! The Kyuubi sent the sphere flying towards Madara's body. The sphere collided with him before completely consuming him. Within seconds, the screaming stopped. Once the sphere began to fade away, Kurama saw no signs of the body. The jutsu had wiped out all traces of the essence of Uchiha Madara. Humph. Not even a body. Figures. An implant of chakra like that has no worth in this world, the Kyuubi commented. As Kurama remained still, staring at the space that had once been the essence of Uchiha Madara, a loud thumping noise sounded throughout the mindscape. He turned his head around to see Aisabu, passed out on the ground. Kurama rushed over to the giant turtle's body, climbed onto it, and placed his ear against his chest. A few seconds passed by before he sighed in relief. Aisabu's alive. He's passed out, he told himself. He must finally be free of the control. Instinctively, Kurama's eyes wandered over to the body of Yugura, remaining still in the mindscape. The flowers that had been holding the boy in place had officially let go. Yugura was also no longer moving about on the floor and seemed to be at peace. Kurama jumped off Aisabu's body and rushed over to the Jinchuriki, placing his ear against his chest. And it seems as if Jinchuriki is fine as well. He must be free as well, Kurama commented as he looked back and forth between the Jinchuriki and the Biju. It's going to probably be a little while before these two wake up. The fox remained still for a moment as his eyes finally focused in on Aisabu. A small smile developed on his face as he looked at the giant turtle. Well, kid. We did it, he said. Within his body, he could feel a presence seemingly glow. Naruto was as relieved and happy as he was. The boy, the Kyuubi could tell, was genuinely happy that both Yugura and Aisabu were free. A part of Kurama realized that he still had an opportunity that he had been craving for years. Naruto had given him complete control in act of desperation. He could, in theory, keep control of his body for a little while longer until Naruto could wrestle up control back. However, the fox knew that Naruto would get control back eventually. There would be no point. Besides, the kid. He put his trust in me, Kurama noted, his smile growing a little wider. He shouldn't have. I've made it no secret what I feel about him. But he did it anyway. Because he valued Yugura's life and Aisabu's life. He'd risk it all just for a chance to do good. A small chuckle escaped his lips. Heh. He even reminds me of my old man in a way. It's that same damn drive to do good in this world. Kid, no. Naruto. The Kyuubi corrected himself. I'm going to pull us out of this mindscape. I don't know how long, but both Yugura and Aisabu will wake up in time. You will return to your body and have full control once we return to the real world. However, this experience battling Yugura and the essence of Madara is going to leave your body and mind exhausted. You're going to pass out. Just prepare to get some sleep for a while. Kurama closed his eyes as he began channeling his chakra, allowing for both he and Naruto to leave. Thanks, Kyuubi. The fox heard Naruto's reply within his mind. The fox chuckled in response. Hey kid, if you want, you can call me Kurama. With those words, Naruto and Kurama left Yugura's mindscape, returning to the real world. Kisame raised Samehada up into the air, prepared to rush forward and strike at Mei and Utakata. He stopped himself, however, as he saw something appear in the sky. A singular black crow flew around the battlefield in a circular pattern. After flying in 3 rotations, it began flying away from the battlefield. Kisame's eyes narrowed at the sight. That's Itachi's signal. He's been forced to retreat and he's advising I do the same. The swordsman noted. That must mean Jiraiya defeated him and he's coming this way. Shit. I can't take him on. I'll get killed. Kisame's eyes lowered and focused in on his opponents. Mei and Utakata were still breathing heavily and bleeding heavily, but were standing and in position to fight. Mei had officially patched up enough of her wounds that she could still keep fighting for a little longer until she got forced down, and Utakata's Biju had healed him enough. I can probably still take them, but not fast enough to get away from Jiraiya. That means I won't have time to get away with Utakata's body, Yugura's body, or the Kyuubi Jinchuriki's body. Shit! He cursed. With a sigh, the former Kirigakure shinobi moved Samahata to his back and rehooked it. Both Mei and Utakata tensed at the action and prepared for whatever Kisame was attempting to do. You both got lucky. You would have died if it wasn't for fate. Still, guess I gotta give you both props for lasting as long as you did to the point that help would come, Kisame admitted. The shark-like man let a smirk cross his lips. I'll remember this, though, the next time. And believe me, there will be a next team. Our team has unfinished business after all, Mei-san, and I intend to have that team reunion soon. With those words, Kisame's body disappeared. A pool of water had seemingly replaced him. Which direction did he go? Mei shook her head as she began looking around for any sign of movement. If we really do have help coming, then we can point them in his direction. He dash. The words on her lips died as soon as they heard some small movement from Naruto and Yugura. Both shinobi turned their heads and saw Naruto open his eyes slightly and start to stagger away. Mei and Utakata got over to them as quickly as they could. Naruto's eyes were starting to close, but a smile developed on his face. He's alright. We did it. Kurama and I did it. We got him. Naruto mumbled quietly. Mei and Utakata, however, heard loud and clear and were staring at him in disbelief. W.E. His words remained unfinished. Naruto fell into unconsciousness, succumbing to his exhaustion. Mei managed to catch him in time before his body could hit the ground. She continued to stare at him in disbelief before tears started to fall from her eyes. He did it then. My Yugura-kun is still alive, she said happily. A large presence landed in the cemetery. Mei looked over briefly in time to see Jiraiya jump off the head of Gamabunta, but she barely processed it. Her adrenaline was starting to fade and exhaustion was taking over her body. The weight of Naruto in her arms was also starting to prove to be too much for her. She quickly started to fall backwards, the sense of joy and relief completely overwhelming. She didn't even feel Utakata catching her body and making sure she, and by proxy Naruto, did not fall to the ground. Everything was over. The civil war was over. Yugura was freed. These were her last thoughts as she drifted into unconsciousness herself. Chapter 52: A United Kirigakure. Naruto's body tensed up as he slowly tried to pull himself up. He realized quickly that he was not in the cemetery where he had previously been. After a few seconds, he opened his eyes and fully pulled himself up. He then took in his surroundings. The blonde was now sitting on top of a hospital bed in a plain, white room. There was a potted plant in the corner of the room and a brown wardrobe with an ornate design, but they were the only things present in the room. 2 windows on the wall brought in sunlight from the outside, showing Naruto that it was most likely around noontime. He looked downward and noticed that his outfit was different. He was wearing a blue robe and pants, both of which had the Kirigakure symbol printed on them. He also had bandages on around his body. Ugh, my head. Naruto rubbed his head. How long have I been out? His eyes widened as he repeated that thought. Wait, how long have I been out? What happened in the war? He pulled himself off the bed and stood on the ground. His body stiffened slightly and he winced slightly, but he started to slowly walk around the room to get his body used to it. Once the pain started to fade away, he opened the door to the room and started to walk out. After a few steps out of the room, Naruto bumped into a man. The two fell down to the ground. Ow! Naruto rubbed his head slightly. He then looked over at the person he hit. Sorry about that dash. The words died on his tongue as he focused his eyes on the man. He recognized him as Doku Sugita, the medical ninja Mei had placed in charge of the Kirigakure rebels. Seeing the man walking around and seemingly alright brought a relief to Naruto. The war, overall, must have ended well for everyone. Naruto-san, I am surprised to see you like this. Sugita was looking at Naruto in shock. You've been unconscious for 3 days, so I didn't believe you would be moving about freely like this. 3 days? Naruto's eyes widened at the words. You were physically exhausted, your incredibly large chakra reserves were drained, and you sustained heavy wounds. I predicted that you would have remained unconscious for a whole week. Guess the QB expedited your healing, the medical shinobi said with a chuckle. Naruto shook his head as he tried to recall his last thoughts. He remembered the fight with Yugura and taking a lot of wounds from him. He also recalled the mental strain of fighting Madara in Yugura's mind and the physical strain of allowing the QB to take control of him for the fight. It made sense for him to be that drained, but the idea was still surprising. 3 days unconscious? And it was expected to be a full week? Heh. Naruto rubbed the back of his head sheepishly. Guess I am pretty tough then. His eyes widened once again as an image of his friends came into his mind. Hey! Where are Dash? Now that you are awake, Naruto, I must ask that you get dressed if you can and report to Mei. Sugita stated, interrupting Naruto's words. She wanted to talk to you as soon as you woke up. I can lead you to her. I can do that. The blonde nodded his head. But Dash, great, then I must ask you hurry. Sugita interrupted Naruto again. She will be greatly pleased to see you're fine. She has things that she needs to discuss with you. So go get dressed. Your clothes are in the wardrobe. After getting interrupted again, Naruto sighed and walked back into his room. He would just ask Mei about his friends when he talked to her. As he closed his door, Sugita reached his hand forward, catching the door. Naruto-san? He called out. Naruto turned his attention back to the medical shinobi. Just to let you know, the Konoha shinobi are fine. Your friends are alright. They have been visiting you multiple times each day. I'll send you to them after your meeting with Mei. With those words, Sugita closed the door. A relieved smile developed on Naruto's face as he walked over to the wardrobe to get dressed. Upon getting dressed, Naruto was escorted from the hospital room through the streets of Kirigakure. The village was, surprisingly, intact. There were a few buildings that had been destroyed and a few areas that appeared to be under construction, but for the most part, Kirigakure seemed as if it had not been just invaded. It's a good thing the village isn't ruins or anything, Naruto mumbled to himself. He was not talking to his escort, but Sugita heard his comment and decided to respond. The village was worse immediately following the invasion, but the rebels started to assist with the repairs. We are not against Kirigakure and we're only trying to change the way the village was being run, so we made efforts to show. Every able-bodied shinobi has been helping and the repairs have been going remarkably fast. I believe that the villagers are just starting to come around. It was that comment that inspired Naruto to take note of all the people on the streets. Civilian villagers and a few shinobi were walking down the streets of the village. Most of the civilians were eyeing Naruto and Sugita fearfully while the shinobi appeared to be on edge. This feels familiar. It's just like it was years ago. Naruto shook his head, trying to ignore some of the looks and the tension in the air. The villagers of Kirigakure were not our enemies, so we did not kill more than necessary. Only people who could be confirmed as Yugura supporters were targeted, and we tried to minimize shinobi casualties to the best of our abilities. Despite this, though, Mei-sama's rebels do not have the best of appearances to the people still in the village. Sugita sighed. To them, we look like a warmongering group that overthrew Kirigakure. It's going to take time before they come around to us, but I'm sure it'll come in time. Yeah. They'll come around. Naruto nodded his head confidently. The people of Konoha have started to come around on me. I'm sure the people of Kiri will come around once they realize that the new government is going to be a lot better. Conversation between Naruto and Sugita died as they continued on their walk towards Mei. They headed in the direction of the Mizuki's mansion. In here, Naruto-san, Sugita instructed as he opened a door to Mei's office before walking off. Naruto nodded his head before entering the room. The room was very reminiscent of the room he saw in the vision he saw from Isaba's mist genjutsu technique. Sitting at the desk in the room was Mei. Directly on the desk in front of her was the Mizuki's hat. Standing by her side were Utakata and Jiraiya. All three shinobi appeared to be in the middle of a discussion, but the conversation died as soon as Naruto entered the room. Both Mei and Yudhikata smiled at the sight of the blonde while Jiraiya rushed over to his side and hugged him. I was wondering when you'd wake up, Naruto. Did you finally get enough sleep? Jiraiya laughed loudly as he tightened his grip on Naruto. Despite the joking nature of his comment, there was evident relief and joy in his voice. The Sannin was ecstatic to see his godson was conscious again. Naruto smiled back as he returned the hug. Long enough to heal up. Naruto replied with a chuckle. I'm good, Ero Sennin. Don't worry about me. Who said anything about worried? Jiraiya questioned as he finally broke the hug. He placed his right hand on Naruto's shoulder. I'm glad to see you're up, but I had no doubt you'd be waking up eventually and you'd be fine. You're a tough kid, Naruto. I knew you'd be fine as well, Naruto-san. Mei commented as she stood up from her chair. Naruto turned his attention to the rebel leader. Mei walked forward towards him until she was directly in front of the boy. She then brought her hands together and bowed to him. I may not know fully what you did to Yagura, but you managed to free him from his control and end a war in a way that he did not have to die, Mei stated. Tears seemed to develop in Mei's eyes, but the kunoichi quickly rubbed them away before they could fall. Words cannot express my gratitude fully. Naruto-san, you have an eternal ally here in Kirigakure for your support. From the bottom of my heart, thank you. Naruto began to stammer. The sincerity and emotion in Mei's voice took him by surprise. He did not know what to say. You haven't even been Mizukage for a week and you're already bowing to a foreign shinobi, Mei-san. Yudhikata commented with a chuckle. Although I understand why. Naruto-san, you did a good job. Thank you for your support, for not just Yagura's and Kirigakure's sake, but for the sake of all of Mizu no Kuni. The Uzumaki's cheeks brightened and he began to rub his head sheepishly. I don't think I deserve all of the praise. You two did most of the work during the fight with Yagura. I only did what I could to help him break free, Naruto admitted. How is Yagura, by the way? Mei lifted her head upward. A small frown developed on her face. Yagura is unconscious, just as you were, she answered with a sigh. He's considered to be stable and the medics I trusted to look after him are expecting he will wake up within the next 2 days, but for now, he's being held in a hidden room in the hospital, away from everybody else in the area. A hidden room? Naruto blinked in response. Why? Has anybody tried to kill him or something? That's a fear, yes. There are few rebels that, if they knew that Yagura was still alive and just unconscious, they'd kill him, Yudhikata replied. The fact that Yagura is alive and the truth of his control is going to be an S-rank secret, Mei said sharply. Huh? What? Naruto shouted as his eyes narrowed at the woman in front of him. You aren't going to force him to remain hidden for the rest of his life or something, are you? I am already in the process of creating an alias for him to live out his daily life, as either a shinobi or a civilian, whatever he wishes, Mei replied, her frown deepening. But as for him reclaiming his identity as Yagura, yes, he can never do that again. Why? That's not fair to him. Uchiha Madara was controlling him, the Kyuubi Jinchuriki declared. Unfortunately, Naruto-san, the truth comes across as unbelievable. I know I didn't really believe it fully, even though I was going on the mission to fight him, Yudhikata admitted with a sigh. There are going to be plenty of people, especially amongst the former rebels, who will not believe it. I can attest to this. There are only a few shinobi amongst the rebel ranks that knew of what I was hoping to do with Yagura, but I tried to bounce out theories amongst everyone to see if they would accept the idea of him being controlled. Hardly anybody believed it, Mei added. The Yondaime Mizukage did absolutely horrible things in Kirigakure and people won't accept that he was just being controlled without visible evidence. It's a horrible position, but the people view Yagura as having a lot of blood on his hands, so there is nothing that can be done for him. So what if it's unbelievable? It's the truth. Naruto crossed his arms and repeated his defense. It is, but their point stands, not many people will buy it. Especially once you factor Mei-san's and Yagura's former relationship, Jiraiya commented. The blonde's eyes narrowed further at Mei in confusion. Mei looked around the room for a moment, uncomfortable with the discussion. A few seconds passed by before she sighed. Yagura and I were teammates throughout our shinobi career and sometime before the war ended, we became a couple. By the time the war was over, there were rumors that he was planning on asking me to marry him, she admitted with a slight blush on her cheeks. The blush faded almost immediately after it arrived, as her face became slightly hollow. It's going to look suspicious that I overthrew him and allowed him to live. At best, people will think I made an emotional decision and judge my rule on that notion. At worst, people could view the entire Yugura regime and the civil war as a political scheme between the two of us to ensure that we both became Mizukage. It could effectively destroy Kirigakure. What? Naruto's eyes widened at the thought. But you would never. You would dash, she wouldn't, Naruto-san, but that doesn't stop the thought from existing. Conspiracy theories exist for a reason, and if people knew that Mei-san spared Yugura, it would spark multiple that could potentially jeopardize life in Mizu no Kuni again. Utakata stated. Silence filled the room. Mei looked incredibly uncomfortable as she thought back to her time with Yugura and the amount of precautions she had to make to keep him alive and prevent outcry from spreading throughout the village. Naruto, meanwhile, was processing everything he had heard and was horrified. Jiraiya and Utakata remained quiet, waiting to see who would break the silence first. So, the world thinks he's dead, huh? The people are going to think we killed him? Naruto finally spoke, asking his question quietly. Utakata nodded his head in affirmation. It's going to go on all of our records, yes? To anybody not privy to the information, the three of us killed the Yonde Mizukage. The blonde shook his head in response. I don't feel comfortable with that. At all. Neither do I, Naruto. Yugura, he really is. Mei shook her head for a moment as she resisted the urge to tear up once again. Yugura is the love of my life and I'm going to have to convince the world that I had a hand in killing him. But it's for the best. I don't want somebody doing something to Kirigakure, and I don't want anybody trying to kill him. Silence, once again, filled the room. A few minutes passed before a knock on the door to the office sounded through the area. The four shinobi became much more attentive and turned their attention to the door. Enter. Mei stated. The door opened up and a Kirigakure shinobi, dressed in standard attire and wearing a hunter's mask over their face, entered the room and bowed. Godame-sama, the escort you sent to Kibo has arrived. The village mayor, as well as the lady you requested to be brought here, Hataru, has arrived. The shinobi reported. Utakata smiled at the mention of his companion. Mei quickly noted the look and a small smile of her own developed. The two shinobi shared a look before the Mizukage nodded her head in understanding. Understood. She said to the newly arrived shinobi. Would you be willing to escort Utakata-san here to Hataru-san? Of course. The shinobi replied. Thank you very much, Mei-san. I'll be back to discuss more things with you after I meet with Hataru. Utakata replied. Mei simply nodded her head. Utakata followed the Kirigakure shinobi out of the room. After they left, Mei closed the door to the office and let out a small chuckle. Utakata and Hataru are together again at least. That's some good news. Hopefully their relationship would be able to grow organically and not have anything happen in it like mine. Mei commented to herself, her chuckle picking up a slightly bitter tone to it. Mei-san? Are you alright? Naruto questioned. I'll be fine. I just need Yugura to wake up already. The newly appointed Mizukage sighed. She then turned her attention to Naruto. Speaking of that, I'll put a notice to my trusted shinobi looking after Yugura that you are to be reported to when he wakes up. I presume that you may want to talk to him as well. I would like the chance, yes. Naruto replied, the blonde's eyes moved towards the door. Watching Utakata leave the room to be reunited with his friend reminded Naruto of his own friends. He really wanted to go meet up with them. Mei-san, may I be dash? You may go meet with your friends, Naruto. They should be staying at the inn just across from this mansion. Mei interrupted him. Her eyes narrowed at Naruto. I've actually gotten to meet Enko-san, Hinata-san, Shikamaru-san, and Dosa-san. I trust them, I think they are good people, and I believe they have Kiri's best interests in mind. Therefore, if you wish, I'm allowing you to inform the secret of Yugura's circumstances if you wish. However, I will hold them to the standards of an S-rank secret. I would advise you warn them of that and let them know that it is a secret that I will make sure remains secret with all of my might. With each word, the Mizukage began leaking more and more killing intent focused on Naruto. The blonde gulped once she finished her declaration, but he nodded his head in understanding. I will inform them of that, yes, he replied. Instantly, the killing intent stopped and a small smile developed on Mei's face. Good. Then tell them hi for me, please. Naruto, once again, nodded his head before excusing himself from the room. Mei and Jiraiya were now alone together. You can be a scary woman, you know that, right? Jiraiya questioned with a slight shiver. Even he felt the killing intent she was releasing and, despite experiencing war and the trials of being a shinobi for over 40 years, even he was intimidated by it. I am aware, but I have to have some fun from time to time, even if it's just messing with someone with killing intent. Mei replied with a sigh. These past few days have been draining and I'm still concerned about Yagura. I need to lighten up my mood somehow. I understand. The Sannin commented. Do you want to take a break? I know we have more things that you and I need to discuss, but we can put them off for a little bit. No point. The Mizukage shook her head. I'll reward myself with a glass of sake later. For now, let's get back to business. Let's talk about the alliance between Konoha and Kiri. Jiraiya nodded his head in understanding as his and Mei's business continued from there. Naruto rushed into the inn and quickly asked the worker at the front desk for the room of his friends. Upon getting the information, he quickly rushed up a flight of stairs and down hallways until he reached the door. He then proceeded to knock on the door. The blonde stood outside the door, waiting for someone to arrive. Nearly a minute passed by before he knocked again. We're coming. Just wait a second. Anko's voice could be heard. Take your time. Naruto replied with a chuckle. The blonde heard no verbal reply. Instead, he heard the sound of loud, quick movement. Almost instantaneously, the door to the room was opened, with Hinata standing in the entrance. Her eyes were wide in surprise and were focused on Naruto. Hey Hinata! Naruto smiled at his girlfriend. How are you, Dash? The blonde was interrupted as Hinata closed the distance between the two of them and hugged him tightly. She squeezed him hard, causing him to wince slightly. Hinata loosened her grip slightly, but made sure to remain hugging him. He quickly returned the hug, keeping her close to him. You're awake. You're finally awake, she said happily as she smiled brightly at Naruto. I was getting worried, Naruto-kun. I'm so glad you are finally awake and well. Heh. I'm well, yeah? Naruto replied with a chuckle. A little sore, but I'm doing good. We've been visiting you every day whenever we could. I wanted to be there when you woke up. Hinata admitted with a shrug. But whatever, you're good now. Now Dash, you two can get a room? Both Naruto and Hinata turned their heads to see Anko, Shikamaru, and Dosu standing by the door. Anko had a grin on her face as she eyed her former genin students teasingly. This immediately caused the two of them to separate, blushes developing on their cheeks. Anko-sensei! Hinata nearly shouted. Get your mind out of the gutter! We're 13! Naruto exclaimed, equally flustered. Two things. Anko held up two fingers. 1. You're almost 14. 2. Old enough to kill, old enough to dash, Anko-sensei. Hinata's blush brightened. Lighten up, you two, I'm kidding. Anko laughed as she walked forward to Naruto. She placed her hand on his head and rubbed his hair affectionately. All seriousness, I'm glad you are alright, Naruto. No idea what happened in your fight, so it made it concerning to see you in a coma for a few days. Glad to see you're up and moving again. Indeed. Dosu spoke up with a chuckle. And while we don't know much about how your part of the mission went, I'm willing to bet most people in your situation would have been in the hospital for longer if they were in your shoes. You're strong, Naruto-san. Heh. Thanks, Dosu. Naruto smiled back at his friend. The blonde walked over and exchanged a handshake with the bandage-wearing boy. After greeting him, he turned his attention to Shikamaru. He held out his hand to greet him, but he was taken by surprise as Shikamaru, instead, grabbed his hand and pulled him closer, bringing him into a hug. Naruto quickly returned the hug. I'm glad you're alright, Naruto. We all are. Shikamaru replied quietly, a small smile on his face. While Naruto could hear the sincerity in Shikamaru's voice, he also detected a trace of sadness in his tone. There was something off with him, something he wasn't fully certain of. Nevertheless, Naruto ignored it for the time being and opted to simply greet his friend with a smile. And I'm glad to see you all are alright too. I got a lot of things to talk to you about, he said. Wanna go get food real quick then? My treat, and we can chat and catch up on everything. Anko offered cheerfully. Nah. We'll get food later, but I have a few things I need to talk to you all in private. Naruto said with a sigh. Some things that I really need to get off my mind that I just learned. The mood in the room sobered slightly after his speech. Anko nodded and the group all went back into the room, closing the door and making precautions to make sure nobody could hear anything that Naruto was about to say. Knowing that he was given the okay from Mei, Naruto told his friends everything: Mei's correct suspicions about Yagura, how the fight went, how the encounter with Isabu and Madara went, Yagura's current health, and Mei's dilemma regarding Yagura. It took him a while to explain everything, and the group remained in silence. Hinata, Shikamaru, and Dosa all appeared visibly shocked by his statements. Anko, on the other hand, had closed her eyes as she processed everything Naruto had said. Well, fuck. She finally mumbled after accepting everything he told her. That's some messed up stuff right there. With the silence finally broken, the group finally found themselves able to speak their opinions. I feel so bad for Yagura-san. Hinata mumbled, shaking her head slightly. He's going to wake up and be forced to accept a whole new identity. And this begs the question, was he aware of what this Madara was having him do? Dosa questioned quietly. If he wasn't, then this situation could be even worse for him once he wakes up. I don't know if he'll be aware or not. Naruto shook his head. I don't really know what to do about this. I know that I'm going to be alerted when he wakes up and I'm supposed to have a conversation with him. I hope I can be of some help to him. I can't help but wonder if he'll be okay. His whole entire reality is going to be shattered, if it's not already shattered. Shikamaru said. It's probably going to take more than a few conversations. I'll do whatever it takes. The Uzumaki tightened his hands into fists as his eyes filled with determination. If it's many conversations or if it's just being a friend, I'll do anything. Shikamaru mumbled as he closed his eyes. I'm also still processing the fact that you said the person controlling him was Uchiha Madara. Anko spoke up again. I mean, is it really the same Uchiha Madara from history? That's what Kukyubi. That's what the Kyubi told me. Naruto stated, correcting his name choice. Kurama was apparently very picky with who he felt worthy to know and use his name. Knowing that the fox had not given the information to Naruto's friends, the boy made the decision to not use the name around them. That dude must be over 100 then. And that makes me scared about how he is alive and what he has planned in the world, if causing bloodline genocide in Kirigakure is part of it. The Konoha Jonin stated. In regards to his age, I know that Orochimaru-sama was experimenting with immortality. There is a chance that Madara may have that ability. Dosu commented. The mention of her former master caused Anko to shiver. I feel like Madara is something that shouldn't be discussed without Hokage-sama. Hinata suggested. I think the concern should still be focused on Yagura-san and what we can do for him. Well, we can't do anything until he wakes up. Shikamaru sighed. He looked over to Naruto and shook his head. You should probably wait to try and think about what you can do for him until he's awake, and you can figure out what he's thinking. Yeah, I know. Naruto nodded his head for a moment as a smile developed on his face. So, I'll guess change the subject. Is there anything good to eat here in Kiri? The conversation lightened immediately as the group began to chat about Kiri and Phil and Naruto about various places to eat and visit that they felt he would enjoy. Naruto eagerly listened and commented whenever he could. It felt nice for him to have just relaxed conversation, especially after the invasion and all the war preparations leading up to it. About 20 minutes had passed before conversation stopped. Naruto's stomach interrupted it. His friends all looked at him, while he rubbed his head sheepishly. Hey, so about food? He laughed. It is probably time to eat, yes. Dosa nodded his head. His visible eye widened slightly as an idea entered his head. Why don't you, Shikamaru-san, and Hinata-san go pick food up and bring it here? Enko Taisha and I can work on preparing some tea. I like that idea. I like that a lot, Enko declared as she looked at the bandage-wearing shinobi intently. I've been meaning to see more of your recipes and it's been a while since I actually brewed anything. This should be good. I would assume so. He chuckled. I actually have a brew I've been thinking about trying and would like your opinion on it. Hell yeah, I'll give my opinion. The Jonin nodded her head fervently. Yeah, so in the meantime, we'll pick up food. Probably some type of meat or something. Shikamaru shrugged as he started to walk to the door. Naruto, Hinata, I'll be waiting outside. Meet me when you're ready to get food. With those words, the Nara left the room. Naruto turned his attention to Hinata and frowned. The thought he pushed away momentarily about Shikamaru had come back and was now stronger than ever. Is he okay? He asked his friend. I don't think so. Hinata shook her head. He's been quiet like that since the invasion after he woke up from a coma of his own. A frown of her own developed on her face. He hasn't really talked to me about it whenever I've asked him about how he's doing. I would like to think he was just waiting for you to get up so he can talk to the three of us together. I see. Naruto sighed as he turned his head towards the door Shikamaru had just walked out of. Shikamaru. Whatever's bothering him, we need to be with him. If he just doesn't want to talk, then we need to be with him. That's the motto I've been taking with him so far, and I'm going to stick with him. Hinata stated as she held out her hand to the blonde. Come on, Naruto-kun, let's go meet with him. The Jinchuriki nodded his head and took her hand. The two Chunin proceeded to walk to the door and left the room hand in hand. Enko and Dosu were now by themselves and began to prepare tea immediately. Naruto, Hinata, and Shikamaru walked through the streets of Kirigakure together in the direction of a nearby restaurant to pick up food. Along the way, Naruto and Hinata engaged in small talk, catching up with each other. They tried to prod Shikamaru to contribute to the conversation, but the Nara was remaining quiet and slightly detached along the way. He only added few-word answers and seemed more than content to have them talk without him. Both Naruto and Hinata frowned whenever Shikamaru dodged conversation, but he seemed to be almost unaware. He had a far-off look in his eyes. His mind was seemingly focused on something else. After a few minutes of walking, the trio arrived at a small restaurant and placed an order for food, teriyaki chicken, yakitori, and some dango for Anko. As they waited for the food to cook, Shikamaru sighed and pulled himself away from his thoughts. He then looked at Naruto and Hinata. Can I ask you both something? Have either of you truly hated someone before? He questioned. Hated someone so badly that you want nothing more than to watch them die. Both Naruto and Hinata turned their attention to him, shocked at his question. Naruto paused for a moment to think about his answer while Hinata simply shook her head. I can't think of anybody, she said. I know I felt hatred for Ao once I met him, but I don't think I feel as strongly about him anymore. I'll never like him, but he's a person who puts his love for Kiri above all else. I can't hate him for that. Her answer brought a frown to Shikamaru's face, which in turn caused Hinata to frown. Shikamaru-kun, what's dash? I hate someone like that. Naruto spoke up, having come up with an answer. Both Hinata and Shikamaru turned their attention towards the blonde. The Nara made a gesture with his hand, encouraging him to continue speaking. I've told you both everything. About what happened to my parents, why I'm a Jinchuriki, and what really happened with the Mizukage. He whispered to them. His eyes narrowed as his thoughts became more focused. I know I've disliked and hated some people before, like that asshole Mizuki and the Orochimaru guy who tormented Anko-sensei. But I don't think my feelings for them compare at all to what I feel towards Madara. Our small talk before the fight showed me just who he was, a selfish asshole who doesn't value anything other than himself. I have never felt so strongly about someone in my life. I hate him. I hate him so much. And I can honestly say, he's the only person that I have met that I think truly deserves to die. Naruto-kun. Hinata looked at Naruto softly as she grabbed Naruto's hand again and squeezed his hand affectionately. He looked over to her and let a small smile cross his lips as he returned the squeeze. I see. Shikamaru mumbled. I think you feel about him the same way I felt about Karatoriki. Karatoriki? The Hyuga turned her attention back to Shikamaru. Isn't that the name of the executioner you fought in Shishio? And here. My part of the mission involved me fighting and killing him, he said. He's dead? You got him? Naruto asked in surprise. I did. Shikamaru nodded his head. Naruto, out of curiosity, does your hate for Madara make you feel like a hypocrite? Huh? The Jinchuriki blinked in confusion at the question. Because if you do get to kill him, you are getting your revenge. You're getting back at him for everything he did to you. But doesn't that make you just like him? Shikamaru's hands tightened into fists. I took pleasure in killing Karatoriki. A lot of pleasure. I killed him with an explosion, the same he killed the hostages in Shishio, and I loved the irony so fucking much. I felt myself getting revenge for what he did to him, and the feeling was so strong. He shook his head before continuing to speak. But in that moment, was I no worse than him, who took the same joy in killing those hostages because of some belief of revenge he had in his own mind? Wasn't I the same person? The same person? Naruto's eyes widened. He let go of Hinata's hand and put his hands on the Nara's shoulders. Shikamaru, you aren't Dash, because it really feels like I'm like him. He spoke over Naruto, his voice getting louder. I took some sick joy out of killing somebody, and I was able to easily justify the other kills I made. It was about revenge. I let hate guide me, and I feel like some kind of goddamn monster. Naruto shook his head again and tightened his grip on Shikamaru's shoulders. You know that's not Dash. I can hear Karatariki's voice still in my head, he exclaimed, interrupting Naruto again. His dying words cursing me and telling me that I am just like him in my head. I see and hear him almost every frickin' second of every day. And I'm sick of it. I'm absolutely sick of it. Dash. He finally stopped talking as Hinata walked forward and slapped him. She did not hit him hard, only enough to get his attention, but the impact seemed to stun Shikamaru. He looked over to the Hyuga with surprise and fright in his eyes. Hinata returned his look with a determined glint in her eyes. Shikamaru-kun, you are not like him. You are not like Karatariki at all, and you know that, she said confidently. How do you know that? He asked quietly. For starters, I can tell that already from the fact that this is a concern to you. Based on everything I had heard about Karatariki, he wouldn't regret making a kill out of revenge. Hinata stated. You're worried about this. You're worried about potentially being a monster. I think that concern itself shows that you aren't one. I suppose, but I still enjoyed killing him. The Nara repeated. But that wasn't why you killed him. That's not why you wanted him dead. Naruto spoke up, interrupting his friend. Didn't you want to fight and kill him to make sure he could never perform an execution again? Didn't you want to make sure that nobody died like those hostages did ever again? Well, yes, but nothing, Shikamaru-kun. Hinata spoke over him. Karatariki was motivated solely by a desire for revenge. You fought to make sure other innocent people wouldn't die. That's what your concern was about. That doesn't make you like him at all. It makes you a caring person. You asked me if I felt like a hypocrite for hating Madara, Shikamaru. Naruto said. I have a question for you then. Do you think I'd be a monster for killing him? Is that what you would think of me if I did? Because believe me, a part of me probably would enjoy getting the kill on that bastard for everything he has done. After asking his question, Naruto tightened his hold on Shikamaru's shoulders. The Nara was unable to look him in the eye for a moment, and opted to look down at the ground. He remained still for a moment before he finally looked back to Naruto and shook his head. I wouldn't. You wouldn't be a monster, he answered softly. But why? I just said I'd enjoy killing him. Naruto continued to question. Because that's not why you would be killing him. Shikamaru answered softly once again. Right. So why would you think of yourself a monster then? Because everything you said about me applies to you, the Uzumaki declared. Shikamaru gave no verbal reply. The trio remained silent. Naruto and Hinata stared at their friend while Shikamaru closed his eyes, processing everything they had said. The silence was broken, however, by the restaurant attendant, who delivered bags of food for them. Naruto and Shikamaru took the bags while Hinata quickly paid for the food. The trio then walked out of the restaurant. We mean it, Shikamaru-kun, Hinata said as she looked at Shikamaru as the group started to walk back to the inn. You aren't a monster like Karatariki. You're a brave shinobi and someone I'm honored to call one of my best friends. And Naruto-kun and I will always be here for you. Always. Naruto nodded his head in agreement and smiled. Shikamaru stopped walking for a moment, prompting Naruto and Hinata to stop. Tears began rolling down the boy's face. Despite the crying, Shikamaru smiled brightly at his two teammates. I'll try and tell myself. I'm glad I have you two with me, he said quietly. He briefly set the bag of food in his hand down to rub the tears out of his eyes before picking them up again. What are best friends for? Naruto offered with a chuckle. I don't know. I always thought they were just there to whine about me being lazy and drag me into troublesome situations. Shikamaru commented, letting a small chuckle out himself. Ha! There's the Shikamaru I know. The blonde proceeded to laugh in excitement. H's laugh was infectious, as Hinata and Shikamaru joined in. The three friends continued on their walk towards the inn, the air and the conversation much lighter. Shikamaru still appeared to be a little guarded and less talkative than usual, but it did appear as if there was definitive improvement in his mood. This improvement made the smiles on Naruto's and Hinata's faces even wider. Any little bit counted in their heads, after all. After eating and trying tea, the rest of the day went by quickly. Naruto spent every moment of it with his friends. By the time the day ended, he had been invited to stay the night with the group. The room had 2 beds and a couch. As the person just entering the room, Naruto offered to take the couch. Hinata and Anko slept in one of the beds while Dosu and Shikamaru shared the other bed. The 4 shinobi quickly fell asleep, while Naruto had some difficulties. God, I'm asking for the bed next time and not offering to take this again, he grumbled to himself. After roughly an hour of trying to fall asleep, Naruto finally started to find some peace and began to fall asleep. This peace was interrupted, however, by the sound of movement. The boy quickly opened his and looked around the room. Nobody was up in the room, moving around. Instead, Shikamaru was tossing and turning in his bed. Shikamaru? Naruto mumbled to himself as he got up from the couch and walked over to his friend. The blonde got a close look at his friend and noticed that Shikamaru had a troubled expression on his face as he moved around in bed. He frowned, realizing what was happening. He's probably having a nightmare. Naruto shook his head. Naruto placed his right hand on Shikamaru's body and rubbed it soothingly. The gesture, after a few seconds, seemed to calm Shikamaru down slightly. The Nara stopped moving around in his bed. However, he still had a troubled look on his face. Naruto's frown deepened slightly. He's probably going to be feeling like this for a while. He sighed. There's got to be something I can do. Something that can help him a little more, even if it's just a little bit. The blonde remained still for a moment as he tried to think of something he could do. After a minute, an idea entered his head. The frown on his face had morphed into a grin as he rushed over to the table in the room. He grabbed a piece of paper and an ink pen and started writing a letter. After 10 minutes, he finished writing. Once that was done, he bit his thumb and started to make a series of hand signs. Summoning Jutsu! In a poof of smoke, Gamakichi appeared in the room. The little orange toad hopped in place for a moment before looking at Naruto with a grin. Hey, you're Naruto, right? I remember ya! He exclaimed. Yeah, that's me. But can you be quiet for a little bit? Naruto whispered to the toad. He received a nod in response. Good. Now I have another question. How long does it take for you toads to get around places and deliver a message? Well, it shouldn't take long. It doesn't take that long for us animal summons to travel. Us especially, since Jiraiya has made precautions so that we can always travel to places whenever he can't physically get there. Gamakichi replied. However, it all depends on where you want to go. Do you have a message for me to give to somebody? I do. Naruto nodded his head. The Uzumaki proceeded to give Gamakichi the note he wrote. He whispered in the toad's ear where to go and who to give the note to. Gamakichi nodded before disappearing in a poof of smoke, heading towards the location to deliver the note. Feeling satisfied with his plan, Naruto went back to the couch. His eyes briefly went over to Shikamaru's sleeping figure. You'll like what I did, Shikamaru. Trust me. He thought to himself as he lied down. Now Naruto went back to his earlier struggle, trying to sleep on that damn couch. The next day began quickly for the group. Hinata woke up early and announced that she wanted to go to a funeral. She, along with Naruto, Shikamaru, Dosu, and Anko, proceeded to get dressed and headed in the direction of a cemetery. While on the way, Naruto realized which cemetery they were heading to, the cemetery directly in front of Yagura's house and the location of his battle with Yagura. A frown developed on his face. Whose funeral are we going to? He wondered. As the trio finally arrived, Naruto's eyes moved up to the gate. He read the quote written on it again. You shall never die, for you shall remain in the hearts of those who inhabit the land. After reading, he joined the rest of his friends as a group of people began arriving at the cemetery. There was an open grave with a coffin inside. Directly in front of the grave was a picture of Akabino Jinin. I knew Akabino Jinin well. I have never seen such a hearty man in my life. He had an infectious attitude towards life. He looked forward for everything. There was absolutely no way you could ruin his mood. Mei informed the crowd of people at the cemetery, a sad smile on her lips. Even when his fiancée died the Third Shinobi World War, he still managed to soldier on. She wouldn't want me to be stuck in a rut is what he would always say if you brought it up with him. Mei continued to talk about Jinin and his contributions to Kirigakure. All shinobi, even the Konoha visitors who had not known him well, were in somber silence as they paid their respects to the member of the Seven Swordsmen of Kirigakure. Hinata, in particular, had her hands together in prayer. If there is a God out there, please, Take care of Jinin-san. Reunite him with his fiancée and let him have peace in the afterlife. Please, she prayed. The funeral lasted an hour and a half before the grave was covered with dirt, and a tombstone was placed in the earth. Soon, the crowds of people began to leave the area. Hinata, however, remained. She informed her friends that she would meet up with them a little bit later and asked if she could have a moment by herself. She remained there, her eyes focused on the grave. She wasn't, however, the only person that remained. Ao, whose body was covered in bandages from nearly fatal injuries he received from Uchiha Itachi, remained. The man continued to look back and forth from Jinin's grave to Hinata. After staying silent for roughly 30 minutes, Ao finally walked forward to Hinata. The Hyuga briefly turned to look at him and acknowledge his presence before turning back to his grave. How did you know Jinin-san? Ao questioned her. We met by chance. Hinata answered curtly. He offered to help me train for the invasion and I accepted it. Did you get to know him well? He asked. I like to think I did, she answered with a frown. Tears started to run down her eyes. We didn't talk too much about our personal lives much, but he just seemed to care about me. He told me in training that he was going to make it a priority that I made it out alive. And he told me to enjoy love and life with his dying breath. More tears began to fall, but Hinata didn't bother to try and wipe them away. She just let them free fall down her face. He seemed to care so much about me for some reason. He was one of the nicest, most genuine people I've ever met. That sounds like him. Ao mumbled, shaking his head slightly. Jinin had an attitude about life that I really respected. He saw the best of everyone and everything and seemed to have just the right attitude to be a great shinobi, someone with a thirst for battle, adventure, and a desire to make a difference in the world. He didn't deserve to die, Hinata stated. Nobody does, but him especially, the Kiri shinobi said with a sigh. It's how war works, though. The two shinobi remained quiet for a moment as they focused their attention on Jinin's grave. 5 minutes passed before Hinata finally rubbed the tears out of her eyes and turned around to walk away. Hinata-san? Ao spoke to her. She stopped walking away and turned back to him. If Jinin wanted you to live, then live in his honor. I tell myself that I am living for every shinobi I knew that passed away from war. You should try and do the same. I will. Hinata nodded in understanding. With that thought, the Hyuga walked away. She repeated Ao's words and Jinin's final words to her in her head for a moment, as a small smile developed on her face. I'll live in your honor, yes. I'll enjoy life to its fullest for as long as I can, Hinata told herself. She only wished that she could be telling it to Jinin himself. After Hinata left the cemetery, she met up with her friends back at the inn. After reuniting for a brief period of time, everyone went off in separate directions. Dosa left to meet up with Mizora, Naruto and Hinata went to go have lunch with Anoka, and Shikamaru decided to go try and find Haku. Only Anko remained, claiming that she needed to get ready for some important meeting that night. Shikamaru walked through the streets of Kirigakure, trying to find the ice-style user. After aimlessly searching throughout the village for nearly an hour, Shikamaru finally spotted him at the hospital. Haku was standing in front of the village, talking to a medical shinobi. As Shikamaru walked closer, he identified the medic as Kiri. Just as Shikamaru was about to approach them, the two shinobi embraced each other in a hug. The hug lasted for a few seconds before Kiri finally broke it and walked back into the hospital. Haku stayed outside the building, smiling slightly to himself. Shikamaru let a small smirk grace his lips as he approached him finally. So, are you two a thing yet? He questioned. Haku turned his head towards Shikamaru in surprise. The Yuki's eyes widened and his cheeks reddened as he processed the question. He proceeded to quickly shake his head. I have no idea what you are talking about, Haku replied quickly. I already know about your feelings for him, Haku. I remember that conversation. And to be honest, that looked a little more affectionate than just a friendly hug. The Konoha shinobi continued to tease. Did you finally decide you want to pursue it? Aye. The Kirigakure shinobi's face brightened further, now resembling a color that Hinata would be surprised to see existed. Maybe. I'm still not certain what I plan on doing about that. Well, hope you find out soon. Just try and find some happiness, Haku, Shikamaru stated. You deserve it. The blush on Haku's face started to fade and a sincere smile developed on his face. Thank you for that, Shikamaru-kun. It means a lot, he said cheerfully. As do you. I'm pleased to see you are in good spirits. Well, to be honest, I'm still not in the best of moods, but I'm getting better, Shikamaru admitted with a sigh. My friends are helping me in that aspect. At least you are getting better. That's a good thing, Haku commented, still smiling. I'm always available if you wish to have another person to talk to. A small smile developed on Shikamaru's face, but he shook his head. Thanks, Haku, but I think I just need to do some thinking about things. I got a good talk out yesterday. I just need to think and deal with the rest of my demons myself, I think. I understand, but the offer is still there, Haku said. I appreciated you being there when Zabuza-sama was out of the village for me, so I'll always be there for you if you just need to talk. Thank you for that, Shikamaru replied, still smiling. So you have been doing good though? Other than stuff with Kiri? Another blush developed on Haku's face, but the Yuki clan shinobi's smile seemed to grow at the question. Things have been great just on virtue of the fact that the war is over. Peace can finally start to develop in Mizuno Kuni. I'm hoping this spreads quickly throughout the region and everything will be at ease in the next few years. Hopefully. The Nara nodded his head in agreement. I actually have requested Mei-sama to send me on missions throughout Mizuno Kuni, actually. I want to be a part of making sure that policies are enacted to prevent discrimination and violence towards any Kekkai Genkai users that are still living in Mizuno Kuni, Haku said, his smile picking up a sad undertone. I want to make sure that nothing like what happened to myself and my mother can ever happen again. I think with time, that can become reality and violence like that will be a distant nightmare. That'd be good. Sounds like a lot of work, but it would do good. And I think you'd be able to help make that happen, Shikamaru commented. Hopefully, Haku replied. The boy then looked over at the Konoha shinobi and gave him a grin. Shikamaru-kun, this may sound like a weird question, but are you up for a spar? I have not done any training since the end of the invasion, and I don't want to become lax. I feel like I need to make sure that I'm at my strongest in case if anything happens. Shikamaru looked at Haku, processing his request. Truth be told, he had not done any training either since the end of the invasion, and he told himself he was going to be taking his training and development more seriously since the mission in Shishio. He was uncertain how long he and the rest of the Konoha shinobi were going to be in Kiri anyway, so it would be taking advantage of a chance to spar with Haku again for what could potentially be one of the last times. Besides, maybe getting a fight and can help me get over some of my demons. Shikamaru realized. Yes, sure, I'm up for a spar, he replied. Lead me to a training ground. Haku nodded his head in affirmation before he started to walk off. Shikamaru followed behind, ready to start training again. Thanks for meeting up with us, Ano-kane, Naruto told his fellow Uzumaki. No, thank you both for meeting up with me, Anoka replied with a chuckle. Naruto and Hinata had quickly found Anoka and agreed to go get lunch together. They agreed on a nearby bakery and quickly ordered treats. Hinata got herself a plate of cinnamon rolls. Naruto, too, ordered cinnamon rolls, but the number on his plate failed to compare to the amount Hinata had. Anoka, on the other hand, decided to order Wiro steamed cakes. Upon getting their food, they immediately sat down and began eating. The sweets here are great, Naruto declared after taking his first bite of a cinnamon roll. Hinata nodded in agreement but gave no verbal reply. She was too focused on eating her own cinnamon rolls to actually say anything. Yup. I can tell that I'm going to enjoy staying here. Anoka grinned as she finished the first of Wiro cakes. Naruto was about to say something else, but Anoka's comment made him notice something about her. Anoka now was wearing a Kirigakyu forehead protector on her forehead. The metal on it was particularly shiny, suggesting that it was brand new. Are you officially a Kiri shinobi? He questioned. Anoka looked towards Naruto and blinked in response. A quick smile developed on her face as she brought her finger up to the forehead protector and flicked it lightly. Looks neat, huh? She said with a chuckle. Yup, I'm a shinobi now. Got placed as a jonin and everything. I already did all of the paperwork and crap, so everything is official. Congratulations. Hinata finally took a break from eating to smile at the Uzumaki. Thanks, Anoka replied, grinning. I'm actually kinda happy with this. I was going to probably become a wanderer throughout the elemental nations and continue to do some mercenary work. I'm kinda relieved that I actually have a place I can settle down in and call home, especially now that the war is over and everything is at peace. If you're looking for a place to stay, you could come to Konoha, Naruto offered. Me and Tayuyane are trying to find all of the Uzumaki scattered across the globe and try to revise the clan. You told me that. I think that'd be cool to be part of that, but I really feel like I need to stay here. Anoka replied as she looked towards the window of the bakery, looking outside into the streets of Kirigakure. I kinda got attached to some of the rebels and Kiri in general. I feel like I can do some good here and I'd like to keep doing things for them. I think this place is my home. I see. Naruto nodded his head. While he understood her logic, he was slightly hopeful that maybe she would take up his offer. He really enjoyed meeting another Uzumaki and someone passionate about Fuinjutsu. Having Anoka in Konoha would have been amazing for him. Anoka seemed to notice Naruto's slight disappointment. She quickly shook her head. Don't be upset, Naruto. I'm still here and you'll always have family if you ever are in Nizu no Kuni, she told him. She then pumped her fist, looking determined. Besides, the Uzumaki were a clan that had spread out around the world. I can help with that. You can establish them in Konoha and I'll establish them in Kiri. Together, we'll create 2 strong Uzumaki clans that can show the whole world just how powerful the Uzumaki clan is. Her comments seemed to immediately please Naruto. A grin developed on his face as he nodded again in understanding. Of course, Databeo, he exclaimed, pumping his own fist in a similar manner to his cousin. The Uzumaki clan will grow. Do not worry about that, Hinata commented after finishing another cinnamon roll. She smiled at the 2 Uzumaki clan shinobi. We'll find more of your family around the world. And if there's anything I can do to help find them, then I'll do whatever it takes. I know we will. And thanks, Hinata-chan. Naruto grinned as he smiled at his girlfriend. Hinata returned his smile. She opened her mouth, about to ask another question, but was interrupted by the sound of the bakery door opening. Doku Sugita walked in and quickly walked over to the table. The medic had a serious look on his face. Uzumaki Naruto, I was looking for you, he said. Why? Naruto blinked in response. Is Mei-sen wanting to talk to me again? No, although someone actually did get sent to her to talk to her. Hopefully they'll report to her soon. Sugita mumbled to himself before shaking his head. I'm here to report to you about the information that Godame-sama wanted you to be informed of. You are to come with me. Naruto's eyes widened. He realized what this meant. Yugura was awake. Do you need to go somewhere, Naruto-kun? Hinata asked, a slight frown developing on her face. She had been hoping to spend more time with him. It's important, Hinata-san. My apologies. Sugita bowed to her. I'm sorry, Hinata-chan. Naruto told his girlfriend as he stood up. I'll meet up with you as soon as I'm done. Hinata stood up and gave her boyfriend a hug goodbye. After bidding farewell to her and Anoka, Naruto followed Sugita out of the bakery. Hinata proceeded to sit back down with Anoka, turning her attention back to her cinnamon rolls. That kinda sucks. I didn't even get to the cool thing I wanted to share with you both. Anoka frowned as she turned her attention to her second Wiro cake. What was that? Hinata looked at the Uzumaki curiously. You can tell me and I can tell him later. Or you can tell him later. Heh. I can tell you now if you want to know. There's more to my appointment as a shinobi of Kirigakure than what could be considered normal. It's actually going to be a big deal, she said with a chuckle. Momochi Zabuza needs to reform the 7 swordsmen of Kirigakure to counteract the fact that Jinin, Jinpachi, and Kushimaru are dead and their swords have been reclaimed. He extended the offer to me, so I'm going to be joining the group. What? Really? Hinata's eyes widened at the information. Yup. He's going to have a meeting tonight to make this more official and give me sword, but it's going to happen, Anoka commented with a grin. She rubbed her nose with her index finger for a moment before looking at Hinata. Pretty cool, huh? This sparked a new discussion, focused on Anoka's appointment. Sugita led Naruto to Kirigakure's hospital and escorted him through a series of secret passageways. The two ended up going deep into an underground floor underneath the building. The walls were made of stone and torches were on the walls, providing the only light in the hallways. After walking for 10 minutes through these hidden hallways, the duo reached a wooden door. Sugita opened the door before bowing and walking off. Naruto proceeded to walk inside. He was greeted with the sight of what appeared to be a standard hospital room. It was very reminiscent to the room he had woken up in, only the room had no window. Instead, 4 seals on the walls created the light that illuminated the room. Sitting on the edge of the bed in the center of the room was the yondaime Mizukage. Yugura was not wearing the standard clothes that Naruto had remembered him in. He was wearing a green hospital robe that covered his body. There were a few bandages that could be seen on parts of his body that weren't covered by the robe. Naruto's entrance to the room alerted Yugura's attention. The now former Mizukage was looking at Naruto intently with blank, almost dead-like eyes. Realization seemed to appear in his mind, as if he recognized the boy in front of him. Yugura? Naruto said the man's name awkwardly. My name is Uzumaki Naruto. I don't know if you know who I am dash. I know who you are, Naruto-san. You're a pretty central figure in my most recent memories. Yugura replied. The man's voice no longer had the harsh, sinister sound to it that Naruto noticed during their battle. It was seemingly replaced with hollowness. Yugura spoke with almost no emotion. So you remember me, huh? How much do you remember of what's happened? Naruto asked him. Most of everything, just not in too much detail. Yugura sighed. Everything felt as if it was a dream, some type of ungodly nightmare that I couldn't wake up from. I don't remember specific events with the exception of our battle, but I remember general ideas. I can remember mostly every law that I enacted as Mizukage and all of the violence that I generated. Naruto's face turned into a frown. So he does remember. Silence filled the room as Naruto tried to think of something to say. Yugura remained still, looking at Naruto intently. It appeared as if he was looking through him, which unnerved him. After a few seconds to gather his thoughts, Naruto opened his mouth to say something. Before he could, however, Yugura decided to speak. In the brief time I've been conscious, Isabu told me about what you did in my mindscape. He stated, I must thank you for everything you've done for Kirigakure. Thank you for destroying that awful spirit that was acting as Mizukage. Don't thank me. Naruto shook his head. Thank Mei-san for that. I wasn't much help until I got into your mindscape. Mei. Both Yugura's voice and eyes softened at the mention of the rebel leader. He quickly shook his head. I owe her more than just thanks. I owe her an apology. And I owe her my life. The yondaime Mizukage's eyes seemed to harden once again. Naruto-san, can you answer me one question? What question? Naruto asked. With that prompt, Yugura's hollow eyes narrowed. Why did you bother freeing me? He asked. Why couldn't you just have killed me? What? Uzumaki gasped. You wanted me to kill you? Naruto-san, I've already been dead for the past 12 years. Yugura answered plainly. The only thing you did was free me from death in time to see, in person, all the death and destruction that was done in my name. That's not your fault. Naruto shook his head. Madara got the jump on you dash. I was elected to be the yondaime Mizukage. Yugura shouted, interrupting Naruto. I was supposed to be able to keep Kirigakure safe from all possible threats. After the Sandaime Mizukage, who led our village into the Third Shinobi World War, I was expected to bring peace to our village. Instead, I let the biggest threat the village has ever seen take control of me and use my abilities to destroy not only the village, but the entire nation of Mizuno Kuni. I ended up doing more damage than the man who was responsible for all of the deaths in the last war. Naruto remained quiet for a moment as he watched Yugura. The man was releasing killing intent throughout the room, but the intent was scattered and not focused on any one thing in particular. If anything, it seemed as if it was focused on himself. I don't deserve to be alive, the man declared. Not after everything that I have done. I failed Kirigakure. The only fate I deserve is to have the gods send me to hell. No, you don't. You don't deserve death or hell or anything, Naruto exclaimed, his eyes narrowing slightly. Yugura gave no verbal reply. He remained focused on releasing killing intent towards himself. Naruto was now starting to become incredibly uncomfortable in the room. His eyes instinctively wandered throughout the room, making sure that there was no weapon in sight. He let out a quick sigh in relief upon not seeing a single one, not even Yugura's staff. To be frank, I probably deserve worse than hell. But whatever, I'm alive for now at least. Yugura let out a defeated sigh. I suppose I just need to live and accept the sins done in my name. Nothing was done in your name, Yugura. That was all Madara. Naruto insisted, shaking his head quickly. That man's a monster, and he's done so much evil, even outside of Kiri. He also killed a bunch of Konoha shinobi and basically caused the death of my mom and dad. Ah, yes. I remember that you said that during our fight. You're Namake's Minato's son, right? Yagura questioned. Naruto nodded his head. A small, sad smile developed on the Yandame's face. We were the youngest Kage ever at the time. I had always wanted to meet him. He was the ideal shinobi, and I heard he was a great man. I wish I could have met him too, Naruto replied, letting the same sad smile develop on his face. My father was the fucking best shinobi ever. Please don't use language like that, the Sanbai Jinchuriki requested, his smile immediately turning into a frown. Huh! The Konoha shinobi blinked in response. That F word. It's vulgar, he said simply. What? It's just a word. Everyone uses it, Naruto exclaimed, letting a laugh out. That's no excuse. There are so many words you can choose from in our language. Don't simply stick with the most inappropriate of the bunch, Yagura scolded. Despite the nature of his comment, his frown turned back into a small smile and he let out a small, brief laugh. Regardless, you are correct. Minato was a great shinobi. I had intended on making an alliance between our villages, but then he passed away. Really? Naruto looked at the Sanbai Jinchuriki in surprise. You could have still requested an alliance, you know? I realized, but I wanted to wait. Your village has a particular shinobi that I did not want to see come to power. Yagura shook his head, as if rejecting a memory. I wanted to wait a little while and see who would be in charge of Konoha. However, in that time, this Madara person decided it was the time to come to Kirigakure and hijack my body. He's going to pay for everything he's done. Naruto shook his head in anger. I'll make sure of that. I would like to be of assistance in any way I can with that, Naruto-san. Yagura nodded his head in agreement. His voice picked up an incredibly angry tone to it. I don't really believe I have any reason to be alive, but since I feel I have a duty to make sure that that evil is cleansed from this world. We can do it. We can do it together, Naruto replied sharply. His face then proceeded to soften as he let a small smile cross his lips. But Yagura, you still have a reason to be alive. There's more to life. I understand that. It's a matter of getting purpose in life again. The former Mizukage sighed. My purpose, at the time, was to become Mizukage and try and bring peace to Kirigakure. I accomplished my goal, but I brought nothing but peace. So make that your new goal, the Uzumaki declared. I don't know how you would plan on doing it, but you have to understand, Kiri is going to need time and work to become peaceful again. You can play in a role in its restoration somehow. Undo all the damage that Madara did and try and fix the village and the country. I suppose. Yagura sighed again. It's going to be a challenge, but it's irresponsible to not do anything. I'll need to try something to correct everything that's happened. The small smile on Naruto's face grew, picking up a teasing glint to it. And not even talking about that stuff, I think there's at least one thing still here in the village that'll give your life purpose. Oh? The Sanbai Jinchuriki turned his head in confusion. Before Naruto could answer, the door to the room was slammed open. Terumime stood at the entrance, breathing heavily. Sweat was dripping off her body. It seemed as if she dropped everything and rushed over as quickly as she could. Mei? Yagura's eyes widened at the sight of the woman. Mei gave no immediate verbal reply. She was still trying to catch her breath. After taking a few seconds to recover, her eyes quickly zoomed in on Yagura. She stood still for a moment, her eyes widened slightly as she looked him in the eye. The two remained still for roughly a minute before she finally rushed forward and closed the distance. Mei grabbed Yagura's body and pulled him into a deep hug. Tears fell from her eyes. Yagura, I can't believe you're here. I can't believe I have you back. She sobbed. I thought the Yagura I had known had been long gone. I was gone. I should be dead, Yagura said, interrupting her. He closed his eyes as he returned her hug. I don't know why I'm still here. I don't know why you or Naruto-san or the gods have decided I get to live. Tears that Yagura had seemingly been holding in since his body had been taken over, finally fell from his eyes as he tightened his hug. But if it means I get to hold on to you like this again, then it's worth being alive. Neither Mei nor Yagura said anything. The two seemed focused solely on their embrace. The only sound in the room was their sobbing. Naruto remained still in the room, forgotten. A smile crossed his lips as he watched them together. A few seconds passed before he decided to walk out of the room. He closed the door, but neither Yagura nor Mei seemed to notice. I'll talk to them later. They need their time, he told himself as he started to walk in the direction he came from. Upon leaving the hospital, Naruto reunited with Hinata and headed back towards the inn together. They returned to the room only to bump into Anko, who was walking out of the room. Where are you going, Anko-sensei? Hinata questioned. Do you have plans or something? Didn't I say anything earlier when we all met up after the funeral? Anko questioned. Both Naruto and Hinata shrugged their shoulders, causing her to frown. Could have sworn I did, but whatever. Zabuza asked me to come to some meeting. Said he's actually treat me and a few others to drinks after 2, so I'll probably be back late and wasted. A grin then developed on her face. Actually, scratch that. Hopefully I'll be back sometime tomorrow. I'm hoping to find some hot-looking guy tonight. I could use a good fuck. Okay, we did not need to know that last bit. Naruto grumbled, shaking his head. What? Whiskers, it's just sex. Lighten up. I've teased you two enough about it already, the Jonin said with a chuckle, causing both of her students' cheeks to brighten. I haven't had any action since before I became your guy-sensei's back when you all were genin. Believe me, I need this. Then you go do what you need to do. Hinata mumbled in reply, her blush still present. Oh, I will. Anko winked. Her students blushed further, causing the Jonin to laugh loudly as she started to walk away. Or if I don't find somebody, at least I'll get a few good drinks and hopefully a laugh. Zabuza's good company. With that, Anko walked off, heading in the direction of her meeting. Naruto and Hinata stood still for a moment before shaking their heads in an attempt to get rid of their blushes. They then proceeded to walk into the room. Anko-sensei sure can be something. I guess. Naruto said with a chuckle. She's always open about herself. Never hides anything. I really respect that about her. Hinata admitted with a giggle herself. She was about to say something else about their former genin sensei, but a thought entered her head, creating a look of confusion on her face. That's interesting. The Kyuubi Jinchuriki gave his girlfriend a curious look. What's interesting? Anko-sensei is going to a meeting with Zabuza. That's precisely what Anoka-san is going to for the swordsman commencement. Hinata stated. What swordsman commencement? Naruto continued to question. Recalling exactly when Naruto left the bakery, Hinata proceeded to explain to Naruto how her conversation with Anoka went, starting with her appointment to the 7 swordsmen of Kirigakure. Back here again. Anko mumbled as she entered the headquarters to the 7 swordsmen of Kirigakure. The Jonin entered the dojo-like entry room. She proceeded to go through the hallway to the left of the entrance. As she walked down the hallway, she saw a series of doors, each labeled with numbers on them. She pulled out a piece of paper and walked forward until she found the room with the correct number she was looking for. Upon finding it, she entered the room. The new room was relatively small and seemed to be a conference room of sorts. There was a large, circular brown table in the center with 10 chairs around it. There were no windows in the room, only ceiling tags that kept the room illuminated. The walls of the room were decorated with ink paintings of waves and the ocean. Anko-san, I see you have arrived. Zabuza greeted her. Anko immediately turned her attention towards the swordsman. Zabuza had gotten out of his chair and walked forward to greet her. The two shook hands. Sorry if I'm late, she informed him. You're on time, do not worry. Mostly everybody was just early. We are only waiting on Mei to arrive, Zabuza replied. With that comment, Anko took the time to look around the room and see the other occupants. She recognized everyone in the room. She noticed Jiraiya instantly, and he appeared to be the only other Konoha shinobi. Chojuro, Uzumaki Anoka, and Hozuki Suigetsu were also present. Seeing the empty seats by Jiraiya, the Konoha Jonin walked over to take one of them. It's a big deal to be here, you know that, Anko? Jiraiya asked her. I know. Not many foreigners can say they've been in the HQ for the 7 swordsmen. It's a big deal for both of us, she replied, her eyes beginning to wander half out the room. Big deal for you, especially, the Sannin commented. She turned his head to question him. Sorry I am late. Everyone in the room turned their attention to the entrance to the room. Ao was standing there. He bowed in respect to Zabuza before walking forward. You aren't late. In fact, you weren't invited, Zabuza stated bluntly. I realize that. However, Godame-sama has ordered me to attend in her presence, Ao replied. What? The swordsman nearly snarled. Does she know what the purpose of this meeting is? She realizes it's important, but other matters have arisen. She is terribly sorry for the inconvenience. Ao apologized. She has, however, informed me on everything of merit about the proceedings. You won't have to inform me about anything. I'll simply listen and report everything back to her. Zabuza began to grumble, saying something about May's lapdog and fuck. Ao ignored his comments, however, and took the other seat next to Jiraiya. Jiraiya-sama, he greeted. Good to see you are alright, Ao-san. Jiraiya returned the greeting. Very glad to see you got your injuries patched up. Yeah, the medical shinobi needed to act quick. Thank you for keeping Itachi preoccupied. If he or anybody tried to attack me after that, I probably would have died. Ao commented, shaking his head slightly. Can you two talk about that later? If May's not showing up, I'd like to just get started with the meeting, Zabuza stated, interrupting the conversation. Ao glared at Zabuza, but gave no verbal reply. Silence filled the room. Zabuza took that as a sign to get started. He proceeded to pull out 3 scrolls and sat them down on the table. As you are all aware, we have won the war. However, both Chojuro and I are the only current loyal members of the 7 swordsmen of Kirigakure, Zabuza declared. He took a moment to look around the room. 3 former members, 1 a loyal, good man and 2 disgusting, dumbass traitors, have passed on. And there are 2 traitors still out there, still holding on to their blades. Suigetsu grumbling, tightening his hands into fists. I'm aware that both Hoshigaki Kisame and Kurisuke Raiga are still alive and each holding on to the Samehada and Kiba blades respectively. They will both be hunted down, and once they have perished and their swords have been reclaimed, 2 more members to the swordsmen will be added in their places, Zabuza declared. He then turned his head towards Ao and started to glare at him. I was hoping May would have been here so I could discuss with her the mission plans to kill Raiga and reclaim the Kiba Thunderblades. We know where he is, and I would like to get the jump on him as quick as possible in case he can potentially go into hiding like fucking Kisame is doing with that organization of his. Mai-sama informed me of that discussion you had with her concerning Raiga and the Kiba blades. She wanted me to tell you that, once the repairs to Kirigakure have been made and the village is strong again, she will send out a team to do the job. It will most likely be in a month's time. However, the concern is focused on the recovery of the village, Ao answered. Humph. Zabuza shook his head. That's not the purpose of this meeting anyway. As I mentioned earlier, Jinin, Jinpachi, and Kushimaru are now dead and their swords are present in these scrolls. Only I, owner of Kubikuribocho, and Chojuro, owner of Hiramikarei, are members of the swordsmen. It is time that the 3 other swords we own are passed down to their new owners. Zabuza slid down 1 scroll towards Anoka. The Uzumaki had a grin on her face as she quickly placed her hand on the seal. A poof of smoke released the Nuibari longsword. She quickly grabbed onto it and held it carefully. Uzumaki Anoka, I realize that you are mainly focused on your Fuinjutsu, but I've seen your Kenjutsu and you are good. I feel that Nuibari will suit your fighting style and thread within it can help you extend the reach of your seals. You are the ideal candidate for it, the original member of the 7 swordsmen declared. I believe it can help my fighting style a lot, Anoka stated as she examined Nuibari. She proceeded to swing the long sword in the air slightly, enjoying the feel of it. Use it to serve Kirigakure with all of your might, Zabuza requested. The black-haired swordsman turned his attention to Suigetsu. He slid the 2nd scroll towards him. Hozuki Suigetsu, I know your brother Mangetsu. While I do feel you need to grow more, I can tell you have the raw talent of a true swordsman. You'll grow further in time, but what I appreciate in you is that you have grace, but you also seem to know how to use raw power. Kabutawari is perfect for you. Suigetsu immediately activated the scroll. Once the smoke blew away, the Kabutawari bluntsword remained in its place. The Hozuki quickly picked it up, holding onto the axe and the hammer in both hands. Heh, I can get used to this. I'll definitely create havoc with this, he exclaimed excitedly. Heh, I guess I'm the youngest person ever to be inducted into the swordsmen, huh? I'm even a year younger than Mangetsu when he got in. That may be true, but I'm pretty sure Chojuro-san, actually, got in younger. Ao spoke up nonchalantly. Suigetsu's grin dropped. He immediately turned his head to face the glasses-wearing shinobi. Chojuro looked downward sheepishly. Sorry for stealing your thunder. He apologized. Chojuro, you don't have to apologize to anybody for something like that. Ao sighed. Be a man. Stand your ground and be proud of what you have done. Don't apologize. Ahem. Zabuza coughed, gathering attention back to him. The room focused on the senior member of the Seven Swordsmen of Kirigakure, which prompted him to continue to speak. Anyway, I understand that you can cause havoc with Kabutawari, but you must remember what it means to be a swordsman of Kirigakure. You are more than a mindless murderer. That is what Jinpachi and Kushimaru were. With that sword, you are inheriting Akabino Jinan's legacy, in addition to the legacy of your brothers. Honor them well, Suigetsu. I know that. I will, Suigetsu stated. The excited grin on his face faded slightly, and in its place was a proud, confident smile. I'll do them proud. With this sword, I'll keep Kirigakure safe. Good. Zabuza nodded his head in approval. The swordsman then turned his attention to the next occupant in the room, Anko. The Konoha Jonin noticed his attention and gave him a confused look. You staring at me for a... Anko's voice started to drag on as realization clicked in her head. As soon as Zabuza talked about the purpose of the meeting and tossed the first scroll to Anoka, Anko was wondering why she had actually been invited. Now, seeing Zabuza looking at her expectantly, and with his hand on the third and final scroll, she knew what he was going to do. And she was incredibly confused. Are you serious? She questioned. Do I look like the kind of person who makes jokes like this? Zabuza answered dismissively. You don't look like the kind of person who makes jokes in general, Suigetsu commented with a snicker. Zabuza turned his head to face Suigetsu. The look in his eyes caused Suigetsu to stop snickering and made shivers run down his spine. Once he had stopped talking, he turned his attention back to Anko. This is incredibly unorthodox to have a non-Kiri shinobi in the ranks. We are called the Seven Swordsmen of Kirigakure for a reason, after all, he stated. Exactly. So why consider me? Anko asked. I can help with that. Jiraiya spoke up, drawing attention to himself. This was an idea that Mei proposed to me when we talked about developing an alliance. She wanted to contribute something to Konoha as gratitude, so she felt that one of the swords would be a contribution. To elaborate on that, Godame-sama feels as if Kiri owes Konoha. Ao continued. Your village's help proved instrumental in supplying extra numbers and resources that were able to win us control of the village again. Consider the sword and the status associated with it as both a gift and an honor. There were some stipulations to this idea, though, Jiraiya stated. He held out 2 fingers. 1. You will not train someone in Konoha as a student to pass on the sword to unless the candidate is approved by the Mizukage and the other members of the Seven Swordsmen. Perhaps the sword will remain in Konoha's possession, but if it does, Kiri deserves a say in who uses it. And 2. You may be asked before any other shinobi to go on missions on Kiri's behalf. If a mission requires travel to Mizu no Kuni or Kirigakure or somehow relates to the Seven Swordsmen, you will be asked to go on it. Therefore, you will also report to the Mizukage. That does come with benefits, though, Ao replied with a chuckle. For starters, you get access to visit Kirigakure whenever you desire, even for business not related to missions. You also will get paid double for any missions that require your services in the name of Kiri. Both Konoha and Kiri will pay you for these missions. You also get on your record that you are a member of the Seven Swordsmen of Kirigakure. If you are the type of person that cares for your reputation, that'll sure bolster it. Anko remained quiet. The kunoichi processed the words of both Jiraiya and Ao. She now seemingly understood why she was being selected. It was part of the deal for an alliance between Kiri and Konoha. Listening to them go over the benefits and stipulations helped her rationalize why they were apparently going to do this. However, that didn't stop her from having one final question. Why me, though? She asked. Wouldn't Kakashi be a better choice or something? I'm not known for skill with kenjutsu, after all. It was Mei's and Jiraiya's decision that one of the swords go to a Konoha shinobi, but it was my choice on who to give it to, Zabuza claimed. Anko turned to face him and gestured with her hand, urging him to continue speaking. As you heard me said, I felt Nobari was best suited for Anoka and that Kabutawari worked best with Suigetsu. That meant the sword to go to a Konoha shinobi was Shibuki, the blast sword, the sword used by Jinpachi. The snake mistress noted, scowling at the memory. Correct. That did factor into the decision, actually. I realized that you had a history with him. I do feel that, if there is an afterlife, then Jinpachi is looking up from hell right now and is seeing you get his sword. I'm sure he's incredibly pissed right now, the swordsman said with a light chuckle. But that's not the only reason. I feel the fighting style of Shibuki suits you. It's not your standard sword and therefore is not suited for someone who practices standard kenjutsu. While you can, indeed, use it for cutting and stabbing like most swords, its main function is to be used for detonations, explosions, and creating fires. You're a fire elemental user. Quite the good one, I might add. I've seen you at work. I've trained with you. I know that you can make use of the explosions that'll suit your fighting style. I think that the Shibuki Blast Sword will make you an incredibly dangerous opponent worthy of the title of the Seven Swordsmen of Kirigakure. Zabuza proceeded to slide the scroll down the table towards Anko. It stopped directly in front of her. That is why I believe you are a stronger pick than somebody like Kakashi. It's ultimately your choice. However, I feel this is beneficial to all of us, Konoha, Kiri, the Seven Swordsmen, and you. Do you accept? Anko eyed the scroll intently. Zabuza's words helped answer her questions. His explanation made sense. She recalled her battles with Jinpachi and recalled his fighting style. I can make this work. No, I can definitely make this work. This thing will fit right in with my style, she realized. With a grin on her face, Anko placed her hand on the scroll and activated it. Once the smoke cleared away, the Shibuki Blast Sword was now visible on the table. Anko picked it and held it tightly. I take it that's a yes? Zabuza questioned, smirking behind the bandages on his lips. It's a hell yes. Anko nodded her head in affirmation. She swung Shibuki in the air slightly, getting a feel to it. It's an honor to be a part of it. I'll make sure that neither you nor Mei will regret this choice. The numbers of the S swordsmen are increasing. We're up to F5. Chojuro commented with a smile. His hands instinctively went to his back, gripping onto her Mikarii, which was attached to his back. It's the beginning of a new era. For Kirigakure, Konoha, and the elemental nations entirely. Anoka declared excitedly, still eyeing her new Abari longsword. We'll get Kiba and Samahata back ASAP. The Seven Swordsmen will be reformed in no time. Suigetsu exclaimed, tightening his grip on Kabutawari. Humph. Zabuza chuckled again as his hand went to Kubikura Bocho. It really is a new day. His hand then left the sword and he pulled out 3 more smaller scrolls. Now let's get the paperwork out of the way so we can celebrate. First round of drinks are on me and they're going to be cheaper for the next hour, so hurry this up so we can actually get to the bar. Anko, Anoka, and Suigetsu nodded their heads as Zabuza slid them their scrolls to sign. The next day came by. Upon waking up, Naruto got dressed for the day. He then left a note to his still sleeping friends, letting them know that he was going to be gone for the morning and that he would meet up with them for lunch later that day at a ramen stand he saw at 1 o'clock. After writing his letter and placing it on the table in the room, he looked back at his friends, still sleeping in the beds. He quickly noticed that someone was present. Anko-sensei never came back last night. A blush crossed his face. Well, congrats for her, I guess. You should follow her example at some point. Naruto nearly choked upon hearing the voice in his head. The Kyuubi always had the ability to talk to him ever since the second part of the Chunin exams, but he never took the time to speak to Naruto randomly. He always had some purpose. Hearing his voice was always a surprise. This was the first time that Naruto could recall that the fox just randomly decided to say something to him, and the blonde's cheeks brightened red as soon as he realized what exactly he said. Kekurama, what the hell? Naruto nearly spat out. What? It's just some advice for you. The Kyuubi shrugged. I managed to get around a bit before that bastard Madara found me years ago, and I have to say that dash. Okay, I was not going to have this conversation with Anko-sensei, and I'm definitely not going to have it with you. The Uzumaki interrupted, shaking his head. I'm just going to go do what I was originally planning on doing and checking up on Mei and Yagura. Suits yourself. It was just a suggestion. Kurama again shrugged. Ask him how Isabu is doing for me. I can do that. Naruto replied. Do you want me to ask if we can do some mindscape thing and you can talk to him yourself? Not really. I don't feel like talking much. Kurama replied with a yawn. That's consistent. Naruto chuckled. When do you ever? He received no response back, which caused Naruto to chuckle more. If there was one thing Naruto had learned about the fox personally, it was that he was loner. He preferred conversations to be brief as possible. It explained his blunt speech pattern and why he rarely spoke to him. Having said that, It was a nice gesture to Naruto that the QB decided to speak to him in the first place. Naruto proceeded to get his belongings and walked out of the room and the inn. As he left, he heard the fox's voice in his head once again. I may not be in the mood, but still, make sure to ask about him for me. Kurama asked again. I will, don't worry. Naruto reassured the fox as he hurried on his way towards his first destination, the Mizuki's mansion. Enter. Mei stated upon hearing a knock on the door, barely paying attention as she focused on paperwork. The door to the Mizuki's office opened. Naruto entered and bowed upon entrance. Mei briefly looked up to see who it was. She immediately put her paperwork down and smiled at the blonde. I hope I'm not interrupting anything or something, Naruto said with an uneasy chuckle as he took a seat in front of her. Nothing at all. I'm just doing paperwork, Mei replied with a sigh. I've heard you want to be Hokage, right? I'd advise against it. This paperwork is hell. You're like the third person who has warned me about that. I'm starting to get concerned. The Uzumaki swallowed uneasily as he imagined his tenure as Hokage being focused solely on reading and signing papers. Be concerned, kid, the Mizuki said with a laugh. But I'll gladly welcome a break. How are you doing, Naruto? Did you come for any particular reason? Not really. I just wanted to ask about Yagura, Naruto admitted. Mei nodded in understanding. She made a hand sign, causing a seal in the room to be activated. Naruto turned his head towards it. Silencing seal. I highly doubt it, but I'm just making sure nobody could possibly hear this conversation, she answered. Understanding fell upon Naruto's face. Anyway, what do you want to know? How's he doing? After I left, that is, Naruto said with a shrug. Yagura-kun's fine. He'll be fine, Mei sighed. Naruto's eyes widened upon hearing the kun honorific, something he had not heard yesterday. He, well, to be honest, still has a lot of negative feelings and emotions right now. Not that I can't blame him. He's trying to calm himself down and get those feelings of anger and self-hate out of his system so he can try and move on. It'll probably be a long time. Maybe never happen. But he's going to try and move on. You never know, the Uzumaki commented. He'll get better. It just takes time. I know. That's what I'm hoping for at least, the Mizuki said, a small smile developing on her lips. Apparently the two of you briefly mentioned getting back at Madara. That seems to be the only reason he accepted the shinobi identity I had for him. So you are going to give him a new identity? Naruto asked. Mei replied as she pointed to some completed paperwork to the side of her desk. First thing I did after I left Yagura-kun's side yesterday. He'll be an ANBU operative that's been undercover in Kiri for me during the war, reporting to me. To people, he'll be somebody who was acting as one of my spies. The two of us are going to design the specifics for what his henge-transformed appearance will look like when he's out in public. Mei's smile seemed to grow a little wider. I've arranged for him to take the name Kamui. Kamui? Naruto repeated the name in confusion. It actually translates to spiritual or divine being. Considering Yagura's a spiritual man, I thought it was fitting, Mei said with a chuckle. What did he think of it? He questioned. Oh, he said that it was sacrilegious, Mei stated, her chuckle turning into a laugh. Her laugh was infectious, however, and Naruto quickly joined in. But when he called me out on that, he actually laughed. I got him to laugh again, so I'm making it official. His shinobi identity will be named Kamui. Oh, that's great! Naruto exclaimed. The two proceeded to laugh for nearly a whole minute before they calmed down. So, is he still at the hospital? Am I allowed to go visit him? He questioned. You are, yes. Being honest, I think he'd enjoy the company. I told Takata to go that way and I think he might be there now. Mei nodded. You know where he is and how to get there. Just be careful and make sure nobody is following you. Understood, Naruto replied with a smile. The blonde proceeded to bow before leaving the room, leaving Mei with her paperwork. With a heavy sigh, the auburn-haired woman turned her attention back to it and focused on her work once again. Naruto left the Mizuki's mansion, heading towards the hospital. It took him only a few minutes to arrive. Just as he was about to enter, the door to the building opened. He immediately bumped into Utakata. A smile developed on Naruto's face upon seeing his fellow Jinchuriki. Hey! Utakata! He greeted. Good morning, Naruto-san. Utakata bowed his head slightly upon seeing him. What are you doing here? I'm here to see the same guy you just saw, Naruto answered. How was he? Ah, I see. Yudakata nodded his head in understanding. He was alright. In a better mood than I thought he'd be. I just wanted to briefly talk to him before I leave the village. That's good to hear. The Uzumaki's words died on his throat as he processed what the black-haired man said. Wait, you're leaving? Where to? Why? I don't know yet. Somewhere. The Rokubi Jinchuriki. And I'm leaving because it was part of my deal with Mei-san. I helped take back the village and now I have been officially removed from Kiri's bingo book. I can now wander in peace. Wander? Naruto frowned. Yudakata, isn't this village your home? Hardly. Yudakata laughed harshly in response. No offense, Naruto-san, but Kiri has never felt like a home to me. And even thought the village will become more peaceful now that Mei-san is in charge, I still don't feel at home here. A smile crossed his lips. My home is the open dirt and a path to the next village. I prefer just visiting places and never staying long in one area. Something about traveling and moving from one place to another relaxes me. Naruto's frown seemingly deepened. I don't understand that. You don't have to. He chuckled in response. Just don't judge me for it. Yudakata-sensei. Naruto and Yudakata turned their heads to see Hataru rushing forward. The blonde-haired girl had 2 backpacks over her shoulders. She took one off upon arriving and held it out towards Yudakata. Are you ready to move out? She questioned cheerfully. Stop calling me sensei, Hataru, Yudakata said sternly. Despite the tone of his voice, Yudakata had a smile on his lips. He took the backpack from her and put over his shoulders. He then turned back to face Naruto. We'll meet again one day, Naruto-san. Perhaps sooner than you think. If I'm in Hai no Kuni, perhaps I'll swing by Konoha for a bit, Yudakata said, retaining his smile. Well, that'd be one positive to you traveling, Naruto admitted, smiling back to the Jinchuriki. He then held out his hand to him. You take care, Yudakata. Same to you, the Rokubi Jinchuriki replied as he took Naruto's hand and shook it. After a few seconds passed, the two broke their handshakes and parted ways. Naruto rushed into the hospital, aiming to meet up with Yugura. Yudakata and Hataru proceeded to walk towards the village exit with no clear destination in mind. Naruto-san, I wasn't expecting to see you today, Yugura admitted as he watched Naruto enter the hidden hospital room. Why? Our conversation last time got cut short, Naruto said with a smile. I suppose. It was nice seeing Mei-chan, so I apologize for making the situation awkward for you. The former Mizukage apologized to the blonde. Just as he noticed with Mei, Naruto caught on to the additional chan honorific Yugura used. He remembered him using it during the fight he had, but this time, it was said with no malice. This chan was used affectionately, and seemed to have some reverence behind it. I actually talked to her before coming over here, the Uzumaki commented, his smile turning into a smirk. How are you doing, Kamie? That name. Yugura shook his head, resisting the urge to chuckle. I feel blasphemous responding to it. Maybe, but you're amused. Stop trying to hide your laugh, damn it, Naruto demanded with a laugh of his own. Don't use language like that, Yugura scolded. Despite his statement, Yugura couldn't resist any longer and let out his laugh. This brought a smile to Naruto's face. If it gets a reaction like that out of you, sorry, but I make no promises, he said with a smile. It normally wouldn't. You just talk a little like Mei-chan does. Or, well, did when we were growing up, Yugura replied, shaking his head. As to Kamie, I don't mind it. I suppose I'll get used to being called it. At least she didn't name me after one of the actual gods. I'd be upset if she had chosen something like Izanagi. Naruto began to rub the back of his head sheepishly. Being completely honest, I know very little about the gods and religion in general, so I have absolutely no idea who that is. I'll educate you later, the Yandere Mizukage said seriously, his eyes narrowing on the boy in front of him. Sure. Naruto let out an uneasy laugh and gulped. So, how are you feeling today? Honestly, better than yesterday. Talking to Mei-chan helped. A lot, Yugura said, a small smile developing on his face again. It's so painfully cliché, but she seems to give me purpose. Just talking to her helped remind me about my passions in life. She seems so adamant that I'll be able to do some good and repair the damage Madara did in my name that I almost believe her. Believe her? The Kyuubi Jinchuriki demanded. You can definitely fix the crap he did. I have faith in you too. I appreciate it. Honestly. Yugura replied before sighing. It's just, I can't fully escape some of my feelings at the moment. I still can't get over that so many innocent people are dead because of me. And honestly, I don't think I should. Yugura, it's not your fault. I said it earlier to you. I was unable to fend off Madara. The Sanbai Jinchuriki replied, interrupting him. That makes it loosely my fault. The blood is on my heads, both metaphorically and literally. Naruto frowned in response. He still did not know what to say to that. He disagreed with Yugura's logic, but he was uncertain with how to combat it. Regardless, I suppose that I'm given a second chance, Yugura said, pulling Naruto from his thoughts. I don't deserve it, but I won't pass it up. I'll do what I can and try to repair the damages in any way I can. And if it means becoming a man named Kamui and being a foot soldier for Mei-chan, then so be it. Do whatever you can, Yugura. But, at the end of the day, just try and be happy, Naruto advised, his frown turning back into a smile. We all deserve the right to be happy. This earned him another sigh from the former Mizukage. I don't know if I can be fully happy again, Naruto-san, but I'll try. That's all I ask for, the blonde replied. How's Isabu, by the way? Has he tried to talk to you? Isabu's all right, Yugura answered. We've been in communication whenever I'm alone in the rooms. He's been helping me keep calm and rational, honestly. I like to think I'm doing the same for him. He was very angry when we both woke up that someone managed to control us like that. I only got to fight and talk to him for a bit, but he doesn't seem like the person you want to ever get mad. Naruto shivered at the thought. Most definitely not. Yugura shook his head. Especially since Isabu is difficult to anger. He is a very relaxed person and it takes a lot to get him stressed. Another small smile developed on the Jinchuriki's face. But he's a good friend of mine. If it wasn't for Mei-chan, he would have been my only friend growing up. He's doing all right now and I'm glad that he is. That's good to hear. And I'm sure a certain fox is glad to hear that, Naruto said with a chuckle. The boy heard some type of growl in his head, causing him to chuckle. He could tell that, despite his reaction, Kurama was pleased to hear that Isabu was doing fine. Speaking of him, do you mind telling me a little bit more about yourself? Yugura questioned. Huh? Naruto blinked in response. What for? To be honest, I don't know horribly much about you other than stuff from our interactions, and what has actually come up in conversation with Mei-chan. I'd like to learn more, the Yandere Mizukage explained. The gray-haired man proceeded to change the way he was sitting on his hospital bed. He was now sitting with his legs crossed. He had both of his hands clapped together, and he was looking at Naruto expectantly. I don't really have much to say, oh. The blonde's eyes widened in realization. Well, if you want to know more about me, then I gotta tell you about Hinata-chan and Shikamaru. A grin developed on Naruto's face as he began telling Yugura about his girlfriend and best friend. The former Mizukage remained in his sitting position, listening intently as Naruto started talking about them from the day where they all became friends. You talked about us with him? Hinata questioned, her cheeks blushing. Despite the fact that Naruto had wrote his letter hoping that all of his friends would show up, only Hinata arrived at the ramen stand to eat with him. Shikamaru and Dosu had apparently made plans with Haku and Mizora respectively. Anko, for her part, was still missing from the inn. Not that this was too much of an issue for either Naruto or Hinata. The two did enjoy some time by themselves. They hadn't gotten too many chances to do this since they had talked to each other about their feelings, and it was nice to have a moment, even for just a little while. Yeah, Yugura was interested once I started. I actually talked about you in particular for about an hour, Naruto admitted as he turned to his bowl of miso ramen. Oh. Hinata blushed slightly. He was actually interested in how far you've gone with water style. I don't think it's going to happen while we are in Kiri right now, but if we ever come back here and he's able to leave the hospital, I think he'd like to see what you can do, Naruto commented in between bites. I'd love that opportunity, the Hyuga said. She then turned to her own, already finished bowl of ramen. She started picking at the bottom of the bowl with her chopsticks. Isn't it weird though, Naruto-kun? What's weird? He asked. Well, we haven't been in Konoha in a while. It feels like we've been gone for a while, she said. I wonder if anything's changed. Naruto proceeded to bring the bowl of ramen to his lips. He proceeded to finish it off before placing the bowl back down on the table and signaling the chef to make him another. I mean, I guess it's been a while, but I don't think much has changed. Not too much can change in comparison to what we've seen down here, he said with a chuckle. It's going to be nice to be back home and relax for a bit. I know. Hinata nodded in agreement. I've been missing my father a lot actually. And Niji Mizan and Hanabi. Naruto proceeded to blush for a moment. He then rubbed the back of his head. Your father, he's not gonna, have an issue with us, right? Father? Hinata blinked in response. No. I don't think so. Okay, good. If you say so. He breathed a sigh of relief in response. Although, you should probably talk to him. The Hyuga heiress admitted with a giggle. Father is pretty traditional. I think he'd appreciate it if my boyfriend visited and asked for his permission to date me. Permission? Naruto's eyes widened at the word. That means he could technically say no. Hinata, once again, giggled in response. He wouldn't. He wouldn't want to upset me, now would he? I don't know, you know him better than I do. Naruto exclaimed, panicking slightly. Hinata's giggling turned into full-blown laughter. Naruto, however, did not join in. He was too busy stressing himself out about how his conversation with Hayashi would go, and whether or not he would have to deal with an angry Hyuga clan head in his near future. I repeat myself. He's not going to do anything or stop us from being together, Hinata replied with a smile. I've grown a lot stronger, both physically and emotionally, since we've been friends. I'm sure he'll see that and understand what you mean to me. He's not going to stop that. He'll be supportive, I promise. Alright. Naruto finally sighed in relief before giving Hinata a small smile. If you say so. I do say so, she replied. At that moment, the ramen chef came by the duo. He took their empty bowls of ramen and replaced them with 2 new fresh bowls or miso ramen. Both Naruto and Hinata exchanged a look between each other. A daring grin developed on Naruto's face, one Hinata quickly returned. Racia? He questioned. Hinata did not verbally reply, she just immediately started eating. Naruto, in turn, focused on his own bowl of ramen and quickly began eating it as well. Within a minute, Hinata placed her bowl down, completely empty. Naruto finished his close behind. I win, she said with a smile. Not fair. You had a second head start. Naruto replied indignantly. It's completely fair. Hinata replied, the smile remaining on her lips. Almost immediately after, the ramen chef came by and took their bowls. Naruto made a gesture, signaling for 2 more bowls. 2 out of 3? He questioned his girlfriend. Sure, she replied, still smiling. Their competition was officially on. So full. Hinata mumbled. Both she and Naruto were now lying on the bed in the inn. They were the only 2 present in the room at the moment. After eating, they came back and were unable to get up after lying down momentarily. Remind me never to challenge you again, Naruto admitted with a chuckle. Totally worth it, though, since I ended up winning in the end. Hinata shook her head. I actually ate more than you, though. Yeah, but I ate my bowls faster, Naruto replied. The Hyuga opened her mouth to respond, but a poof of smoke filled the room. Naruto and Hinata both forced themselves to sit up on the bed to see what was happening. From the poof of smoke, Gamakichi appeared, holding a piece of paper in his hand. He then tossed it at Naruto. Naruto, that sucked. Never have me do something like that again, Gamakichi grumbled. You got it delivered, though. Naruto smiled as he caught the paper. Thanks a lot, Gamakichi. The orange toad grumbled something about not being a messenger toad before disappearing in the same poof of smoke. What was that about, Naruto-kun? Hinata questioned curiously. You'll know when Shikamaru gets back. Naruto replied with a chuckle. Just then, the sound of keys rustling could be heard. They looked over and saw the door to the room being opened. Shikamaru came walking in, bruised and with a set of fresh cuts present on his body. Speak of the devil, and he appears. Naruto continued to chuckle. Hey, I'm back. Sorry for bailing on lunch, Naruto. Haku wanted another spar and that guy is merciless. Shikamaru replied with a sigh. Don't worry about it. Just read this and all will be forgiven. the Uzumaki replied as he tossed the note he had just been given at the boy. Shikamaru's eyes widened at the sight of the incoming piece of paper. He caught in his index fingers. "What is this?" he asked. "Just read it," Naruto said dismissively with a yawn. "I think I'm gonna take a nap." "Hinata-chan, you're still tired, right?" Hinata nodded her head. The two proceeded to lie back down on the bed. Shikamaru's eyes were focused on his friends for a moment before he shook his head and sat down at the table. "Troublesome people," he grumbled as he turned his attention to the note. He opened it and began to look at the writing. His eyes widened almost instantly. "Wait, is this? Hey Shikamaru! So, I have no idea when you're going to get this. Maybe today after I write it? Or in a week? I don't know. I'm literally writing a note because a toad asked me to, and I'm going to give it back to him to give back to you. I don't know what's going. Summoning animals are weird. As is Naruto. Tell him he's weird for me, okay? Regardless, your teammates sent me something telling me that you weren't feeling like your normal, lazy self recently because of some stuff that have been going on during some mission you both are on. I don't know." He didn't elaborate much. Said it was personal and that you should tell me if I want to know. Which, you know, totally defeats the purpose. He wants me to help you feel better, but he isn't going to tell me what you're thinking? What kind of logic is that? He's an idiot. I've addressed that idiot enough, so back to the main thing. You. As I said earlier, I have no idea what happened on the mission. I don't know what kind of stuff went wrong or what anybody said. What I do know, however, is that you are a great shinobi. And I mean that. I don't normally give compliments for nothing. Shikamaru, you're a smart guy. You were chosen to be a chunin for a reason during your first exam. That's a position that's not given away lightly, especially for someone as young as you. That's a major accomplishment. More than that, though, you're just a nice person. You care a lot. I know you sometimes have this I don't give a fuck, I just want to sleep persona, but you're more than that. I can just tell that. You have pride in your village and your people, and you want to do your part to make it a great place. And I can tell you really do care about others. Naruto and Hinata always have great things to say about you. And honestly, I always have lots of good things to say when talking to others. I always mention some guy in Konoha that's the laziest kid ever, but one of the smartest and nicest guys out there. Things happen on missions, and I'm not saying that like it's a good thing. It's horrible when things do go wrong. But that's kinda how life goes. How we respond to it is what's important. We grow from these experiences. We become tougher. You're already a tough, smart guy, Shikamaru. And I know you're just going to get even greater. I know you can. You'll do whatever you need to do, grow and keep people safe. And I know that because you're a good person who puts others before even yourself. I don't know when I'll be in Konoha next, or when you'll be in IWA, but whenever we are together, I hope to see that you are okay. I'll treat you to food and I'll give you a hug, and then I demand to spar you to see how much you've grown. I can't wait till then. But until I see you, take care of yourself. Don't let whatever any douchebag said or whatever happens get you down. Use it all to grow. You're a great person, Shikamaru, and a great friend, and I'm lucky to know you. Your loyal friend, always, Kuratsuchi, future Yandere Tsuchikage. Shikamaru read the note quickly before reading it again. Upon finishing it again, he read it a third time. Then a fourth. Then a fifth. By the sixth time, he realized that he had tears in his eyes that were starting to fall and get the paper wet. He quickly rubbed them away and put the note away in his pocket. Troublesome girl. He shook his head. Why do you have so much faith in me? What did I ever do to deserve that? Kuratsuchi was not physically present to respond, so he got no answer. However, he felt his hand grip onto the note in his pocket tightly. It was almost as if he could hear her response from it, because you're you. You're a good guy, Shikamaru. Kuratsuchi, thank you. Shikamaru couldn't resist the urge to smile. That smile did not go away for the rest of the day. 3 more days passed. After these days had gone by, the Konoha shinobi in Kirigakure had gotten ready to return to their village. The forces organized by the entrance. Jiraiya stood at the front. Anko, along with her squad, stood next to him. Directly in front of them was Mei, along with Ao Zabuza, Haku, Anoka, Mizora, and a masked ANBU operative. Please, inform Hokage-sama of everything we discussed and give him my sincere thanks. From now to the end of time, Kirigakure and Kanahagakure are bonded. Mei informed the Sannin. Immediately, Anko's hand instinctively went to the Shibuki blast sword that she now had strapped on her back, the physical proof of that bond. A grin developed on her face. "I'll be sure to tell him that," Jiraiya said. "Thank you for everything, Mei-san." "Thank me?" "Thank you. Thank you all," Mei replied cheerfully. "Yes, we do owe you all." Haku spoke up, the same cheer in his voice. Tears were threatening to come down his face. "Through our actions, we have hopefully made Mizuno Kuni a safer place. From the bottom of my heart, thank you all. From the bottom of all of our hearts," Mizora added, tears also coming down from hers. "And from the hearts of all throughout Mizuno Kuni with Kekkei Genkai. We are just glad we could do something," Hinata commented with a smile. "You did more than something," Ao spoke up. "You all did good." "Indeed." Zabuza nodded. He looked Anko in the eye and smirked behind his bandages. "Represent us well, Anko." "Will do, boss," Anko replied. A small blush developed on her cheeks, but she quickly shook her head and pushed it off before anybody could notice. "I know you all must be going off, so please be careful," the masked Anbu said to the Konoha shinobi. "Kamui, right?" Naruto looked at the Anbu with a smile. "We'll be careful." "You as well." Kamui nodded his head in acknowledgement to Naruto's request. With the farewells made, the Konoha shinobi began to march off. The group began to leave the village. Anko's group, being at the end, was the last to leave. "Wait!" Mizora called out. The group turned around in time to see the blind shinobi rushing forward. She ran up to Dosu and embraced him in a hug. She then gave him a kiss on the cheek. "Hopefully we'll see each other again soon someday," she told him, a smile on her lips, as she rushed back. Anko, Hinata, Shikamaru, and Naruto were all staring at Dosu. The bandage-wearing shinobi watched Mizora leave the area, his visible eye widened in complete surprise. He seemed almost incapable of producing any form of response. "Dosu, are you alright?" Naruto asked. "Dosu-kun?" Hinata repeated the boy's name. "Hey, I know you want to remain in whatever dimension you're in, but the rest of the Konoha shinobi are leaving. We should be following behind," Anko informed the group. That comment seemed to restart Dosu's mind as he finally nodded his head and turned around. The group joined the rest of the Konoha shinobi and started to walk back. "So, what was that, Dosu?" Naruto asked teasingly. I'm not fully certain," the bandage-wearing shinobi. "The last time we met up, I confessed I had an interest in Misora-san. She said she had feelings for me, but she wanted to think about them in more detail before coming to a conclusion. That was 2 days ago. Looks like she came to her conclusion," the Uzumaki said teasingly. "In my defense, it seems like the two of us reached a mutual understanding in a relationship faster than you two did," Dosu mentioned, causing Naruto to shut up almost immediately. "So please refrain from teasing me too much. I'm the one who teases you two the least, anyway." Both Naruto and Hinata began to blush again, which generated laughter from Dosu, Shikamaru, and Anko. Despite the various emotions associated with the mission, they were leaving Kirigakure in good, peaceful spirits. Hopefully, that would be a good omen for the village's future. It was now time to return to Konoha and see what has happened to the village in their absence.